Chapter 51-52. The nine-colored flame was already enough to make the heavenly Tao old monster helpless. If the 10-colored flame was even stronger, it would definitely make the primordial Meng realm great Tao old monsters hesitate to attack. On this point, Yi Xian was still quite confident. Therefore, he decided that before returning, no matter what, he would first fuse the Shenong nine-colored flame with the Red Lotus karmic fire to refine the 10-colored flame. Although he still might not be able to attack those primordial Meng old monsters, at least with the protection of the 10-colored flame, Yi Xian finally had the ability to protect himself to a certain extent in the hands of the primordial Meng old monsters. He decided to do it. Swoosh, with a flash of light. He immediately waved his hand, and a ray of light shot out. It expanded with the wind and turned into the Shenong treasured cauldron. Its shape did not deliberately shrink, and it was like a giant star. After all, this was the primordial chaos void, and Yi Xian had already retreated to a place extremely far away from the mysterious green lotus. The primordial chaos void in the void was also very rare. As the treasured cauldron was summoned, his shoulders shook, and he instantly jumped into the mouth of the treasured cauldron, which was shrouded in nine-colored fog, and directly entered the cauldron's space. Cauldron inner space. High in the sky, Yi Xian's figure landed at the end of the horizon, but he did not see the goat horn immortal. The old man might be in seclusion in the distant mountain range. He ignored all of this and directly pressed down on his body, entering the central region volcano in the cauldron's space. In the nine-colored flame pool at the bottom of the mountain, the nine-colored flame sea was still there, occupying 90% of the flame pool. The other 10% of the area was a red ocean. Every wave in the ocean was made up of red lotuses that were about 10 feet in size. In the center of this area, there was a dark red flame that was only the size of a finger's belly. It was the Red Lotus Mother Flame. Now that it had been refined by Yi Xian, it had a profound connection with his flesh and blood. When he was at the bottom of the central region volcano, he sat cross-legged in mid-air, took a deep breath, and threw all the distracting thoughts in his mind to the back of his mind. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the flame pool at the bottom of the volcano, the Shenong nine-colored flame, which occupied 90% of the flame pool, set off raging waves. Yuanzai at the same time, there was a faint sound of something breaking through the air. The Red Lotus karmic fire, which occupied 1/10 of the flame pool, did not move. However, the Red Lotus flame jellyfish, which was only the size of a thumb, shot up and entered the nine-colored flame sea for the first time. At this moment, Yi Xian's heartstrings tightened. His heart was in his throat. He had completely refined the blazing Red Lotus seed, so the karmic fire of the Red Lotus posed no threat to him at all. Even if he came into contact with it, he would be like a fish in water. However, merging the blazing Red Lotus seed with the Shenong nine-colored flames was another matter altogether. Yi Xian didn't know what would happen, but he was certain that if there really was an accident, it would definitely be no small matter and extremely dangerous. After the Flame Mother Red Lotus entered the nine-colored sea of flames, it could no longer be seen. The nine-colored sea of flames, which was already surging with waves, became even more turbulent at this time, revealing an incomparably violent and fierce aura that seemed to want to destroy the world. This was how it should be. The Shenong nine-colored flame was originally a one-colored flame. It had only grown to its current nine-colored flame by fusing with top-notch heavenly flames time and time again. At this point, at this height, it was extremely difficult to take another step forward. If he failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even Yi Xian couldn't predict what would happen. Time slowly passed. Unknowingly, a month had passed just like that. In the next moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there was clearly a hint of joy quietly flashing through. At the same time, the nine-colored sea of flames, which had been surging with huge waves for the past month, also stopped in an instant and quieted down. Yi Xian's eyes flashed with a dark light as he swept his gaze across the Shenong flame pool below. He could see that the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, which occupied 10% of the area, was rapidly merging with the Shenong nine-colored flames. This was clearly caused by the fusion of the blazing Red Lotus seed with the nine-colored sea of flames. Everything progressed very quickly. In just 3 short breaths, the flame pool was no longer separated. The nine-colored flames were gone, and the karmic fire of the Red Lotus was also gone. There was only a pool of dazzling liquid in the pool. There were a total of 10 colors, exuding an endlessly powerful aura. It was finally completed. The 10-colored flame had appeared out of nowhere. A gratified expression appeared on Yi Xian's face, but he did not get up. This was because he wanted to finish the other thing before he returned in one go. In the past month, his mental state had been greatly exhausted, and his cultivation was almost exhausted. It was time to take advantage of this situation to break through. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Very quickly as he waved his hand, a faint sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Rays of light shot out and hovered in front of Yi Xian. These were the cultivation resources that he had taken out from the undying world in his body for this breakthrough. Among them were 10 pieces of heavenly blood essence. This was a cultivation resource that he needed to forcibly break through a small level in his cultivation base by swallowing it. Yi Xian. After hesitating for a moment, a dark light flashed in his eyes. He immediately activated the power of the Shunnong Cauldron's domain, compressing all the cultivation resources into the size of a nascent fist. Then, with a wave of his hand, he swallowed it into his stomach. Walala. The nascent fist ball melted as soon as it entered his mouth. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a majestic river of energy that slowly flowed out from within Yi Xian's body. As expected, the sound of chains clanging could be heard from all directions. A shackle appeared within Xian's body. This meant that the cultivation resources that he had swallowed this time were sufficient, and the shackle that represented the bottleneck of his cultivation had been activated. As long as he could tear it apart, he would be able to break through smoothly. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Yi Xian's heartstrings immediately relaxed. He quickly focused his mind and used all his strength to activate the great river of energy that had just formed in his body, circulating it through the 100 meridians in his body time and time again. After half a month, the huge river of energy that had formed in Yi Xian's meridians had been completely refined. The result was within expectations. Only with just one attack, this incomparably thick shackle broke. The anticipated system notification rang out in Yi Xian's mind very quickly. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through the realm of the ancient Dongshu technique. Current realm. Level 5 of the Heavenly Tao. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through the realm of the physical body's qi and blood. Current realm. Level 5 of the Heavenly Tao. In the next instant, Yi Xian opened his eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there was a flash of excitement. There was no need to be conflicted. The suppression of the primordial chaos Great Tao still existed. Therefore, after this breakthrough, his cultivation realm was still at the peak of the Heavenly Tao Great Perfection Stage 9 under the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape. However, Yi Xian had long been used to it. At least after this breakthrough, his actual combat strength had clearly increased by a large margin. If he had the 10-colored flame in hand, even if he encountered the primordial chaos old monster after the Heavenly Tao, although he would not be able to attack, he would at least have the ability to protect himself to a certain extent. Whoosh! Very quickly, he rushed out of the treasured cauldron. With a wave of his hand, he stored the Shunnong cauldron into his body. Then, he directly activated the interstellar coordinate jumping ability of the system in his body. He locked onto the primordial chaos starbase camp and returned to the primordial chaos void. The primordial chaos void. Counting the time, the shocking accident that occurred outside the Chaos Lac star field had already happened a year ago. A year ago, more than 1,000 Heavenly Tao old monsters from all over the left and right sides of the Milky Way gathered in the Chaos Lac star field with even more powerful experts and desolate supremacies. Originally, they were there to fulfill their promise with the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, to refine the Heavenly 9 Treasures elixir. But what happened after that was completely out of everyone's expectations. It turned out that the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, did not plan to help others refine the Heavenly 9 Treasures elixir. After the unexpected primordial chaos pill tribulation, he did not return to the right side of the Milky Way. Instead, he lay in wait on the left side of the Milky Way. After stirring up the situation, he took advantage of the situation to fish in troubled waters. He secretly hunted the Heavenly Tao old monsters time and time again to obtain the Heavenly 9 Treasures elixir that was needed to refine the Heavenly 9 Treasures elixir. In the year after the promise, no one knew how many times the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, had attacked, how many Heavenly Tao old monsters he had killed, and how much Heavenly Tao original elixir he had obtained. However, one thing was absolutely certain, and that was that the amount of Heavenly Tao original elixir in his hands was definitely not small. This was because other than the amount of Heavenly Tao original elixir that he had obtained during the battle in the Chaos Lac starfield, the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, had also killed many Heavenly Dao old monsters in front of everyone. Just this amount of Heavenly Dao original elixir that he had obtained was not a small amount. By the time now a year had passed, and the shocking accident outside the Chaos Lac starfield had already spread to both sides of the Milky Way. Over the past year, no matter if it was on the left or right side of the Milky Way, when everyone mentioned the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, their expressions would change, and they would suck in a breath of cold air. They would feel a cold wind blowing behind their backs. Ferocious. The master of the magic hall's ferocious reputation was indeed not just for show. In the left bank of the Milky Way, no matter if it was the top 10 Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list or the top 10 Heavenly Dao Survivors list, although there had been changes over the countless years, it was basically only one or two rankings that moved up or down occasionally. There were cases where someone who was originally in the top 10 suddenly disappeared from the top 10 rankings. Although there had been cases, it was very, very rare. However, this time, although there was no change in the Heavenly Dao Survivors list, there was a huge change in the top 10 Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list. The dragon whale, who was originally ranked 10th on the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list, had fallen. The frost blood blue crocodile, who was ranked 9th, had fallen. Even the tyrant blood silver wolf, who was ranked 6th, had fallen as well. These three existences were all terrifying experts who were ranked in the top 10 of the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list. They had sat on the list for a very long time, and no one had ever shaken their positions in the top 10. But now, all of them had fallen, and within a year, they had been killed by the same person. In the last battle, the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, had killed the dragon whale and the tyrant blood silver wolf in a direct battle in front of everyone. Just based on this point, one could see how terrifying his battle prowess was. Now, there were already rumors secretly spreading on both sides of the Milky Way that the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian's battle prowess was probably not as simple as just entering the top 6 of the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list. If there were no accidents, it was very likely that he would be able to enter the top 3. In other words, among the terrifying old monsters ranked above the tyrant blood silver wolf on the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list, there were at least 3 people who were not a match for Yi Xian. Although this matter had not been verified, it was already widely spread in private. No. There was no meaning in this anymore. Even the 5 old monsters ranked above the tyrant blood silver wolf on the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list didn't care about this matter. Because the current Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts list and Heavenly Dao Survivor list had already fallen from their divine altar on both sides of the Milky Way. They were no longer at the top of the pyramid. Everything had changed because of the appearance of the 2 ancient ferocious beasts, the dark wolf and the dark blood demon crocodile. 1,000,000 years ago, there was no hope of entering the primordial chaos Dao realm in this era. Later, the ancestor of the survivors, Hong Ke, created the Heavenly 9 Great Dao Elixir, which gave the old monsters of the Heavenly Dao hope of entering the Dao realm. At that time, Hong Ke refined a large amount of Heavenly 9 Great Dao Elixir, and a large number of old monsters of the Heavenly Dao who had obtained enough Heavenly 9 Great Dao Elixir disappeared. They went into seclusion in different regions to break through to the primordial chaos Dao realm after the Heavenly Dao realm. Among them was Patriarch Hong Ke himself. Heavens! After the primordial chaos Dao realm, it was not so easy to break through. Even with the help of the Heavenly 9 Great Dao Elixir, it still required a long time. Therefore, ever since then, the Heavenly 9 Great Dao Elixir was lost, and the old monsters of the Heavenly Dao who were in seclusion also disappeared without a trace. Until a year ago, the dark wolf and the dark blood demon crocodile appeared one after the other, causing the primordial chaos Dao realm to enter another prosperous era. An unprecedented prosperous era in the primordial chaos Dao realm. Since within a year after that, more than 10 primordial chaos Dao realm experts appeared one after another. Since there were ferocious beasts, there were also survivors. Now, more than 10 primordial chaos Dao realm experts, including the dark wolf and the dark blood demon crocodile, had entered the Milky Way primordial chaos ranking together. Although the Milky Way primordial chaos ranking had just appeared, and because the primordial chaos old monsters had not fought against each other, it was difficult to determine who was stronger. Therefore, the ranking list did not have a ranking system, and they were all ranked together. Even so, it was enough to suppress the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beast ranking and the Heavenly Dao Survivor ranking. Over the past year, countless experts in the Ferocious Beast Forbidden Lands and the Survivor Star region on both sides of the Milky Way were discussing the newly appeared Milky Way Primordial Chaos ranking, as well as the Primordial Chaos old monsters who were ranked together on the ranking list. Until at the beginning of the year, the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, was still very popular and famous. However, as time passed, his name gradually stopped being mentioned. Because the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, had been banished into the primordial chaos void. There were primordial chaos turbulence void of all sizes there, condensed from the purest primordial chaos force. Even the primordial chaos old monsters did not dare to enter. The master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, was only a peak heavenly Dao realm expert. If he entered, he would definitely die. Although, it was said that he had the Shunnong Cauldron, the 9-colored Flame Sea, the Red Lotus Hellfire, the Fallen Sky Bow, and the Heavenly 9 Treasures Elixir Refinement Manuscript. These were all top-notch resources. However, now that they had disappeared with Yi Xian's death, no one cared about them anymore. Until the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone on the right bank was similarly ignored. Previously, the old monsters on the left bank were paying attention to Yi Xian only because of the various treasures and top-notch divine powers he had. Apart from all of that, a tiny Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone did not pique their interest. Only there was one exception, and that was the primeval Heaven's Eye. He came out of seclusion a month ago. Although he felt somewhat regretful when he heard the shocking news, he did not plan on letting go of the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone. Now, he was rushing towards the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone and was about to descend upon the stellar domain and wreak havoc. After Yi Xian left, the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone remained very quiet. When Yi Xian left, the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone had the 4 Heavenly Dao Realm experts, Pig Spirit, the Empyrean Beast, the Devouring Treasured Body, and Shi Wanjin. If they were on the left bank they might not be considered much, but on the right bank they were extremely powerful. During this period of time, all the experts of the 6 legions of the Magic Hall were restrained and were not allowed to leave without permission. They were all cultivating in seclusion in the Forbidden Stellar Domain. Only a few scouts and fleets took turns to head out to gather intelligence. News of the shocking incident that happened a year ago in the Chaos Fiend Stellar Domain on the left bank had spread throughout the right bank. The Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone naturally knew about it as well. However, be it Pig Spirit or Shi Wanjin, they did not take it to heart. This was because they were confident in Yi Xian. Dang! However, due to the commotion caused by Yi Xian, they had formed too many grudges. It was impossible for them to not expect that someone would come to the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone to cause trouble. At the very least, Primeval Heavens I would definitely not let the matter rest so easily. He did not know that the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone had 4 Heavenly Dao Realm experts presiding over it. Even if he knew, he probably would not take it to heart. This was because he still had 7 Heavenly Dao Old Freaks under him. Including himself, he had a total of 8 Heavenly Dao Old Freaks. Furthermore, Primeval Heaven's Eye was a late-stage existence at the 8th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. He was not far from the peak of the 9th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. In fact, the 4 Heavenly Dao Realm experts presiding over the Magic Hall's Forbidden Zone were far from what they were in the past. Although it had only been a few years, the 4's cultivation had improved at an alarming rate. Elder Pig Spirit had already reached the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the demonic pig. Furthermore, his cultivation realm had also broken through to the Heavenly Dao Realm in the past few years. Therefore, under the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the demonic pig, Old Pig Spirit's strongest cultivation had already reached the peak of the 9th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. Of course, although they were both at the peak of the Heavenly Dao Realm, he was still incomparable to Yi Xian. However, it was no longer a problem for him to suppress Primeval Heaven's Eye head-on. As for the Arch-Beast, Yi Xian was already at the 2nd stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm when he left. Now, he was at the mid-stage of the 4th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. Together with the 4 Heavenly Kings that had fused into his body, his overall combat strength was comparable to a mid-stage peak of the 6th stage. Devour the Treasured Devouring Body's cultivation improved the fastest. In just a few years, it had gone from the 1st stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm to the 5th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. However, as it was formed from the Connate Devouring Origin Crystal, its combat strength was not to be underestimated. It was enough to crush late-stage Heavenly Dao Realm experts at the 7th stage. That was even if it fought the Primeval Heaven's Eye, who was at the 8th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. It should not be at a disadvantage. As for Shi Wanjin, this fellow had already gone into seclusion when Yi Xian left. He had just come out a month ago. Before he went into seclusion, he had just swallowed 99 bean-sized primordial energy. He had forcefully gnawed them off the barrier of the 99 source hive stars with his teeth. This, after a few years of seclusion and refining these 99 bean-sized primordial energy, the current Shi Wanjin was already at the 7th stage of the Heavenly Dao Realm. If his lightning poison tribulation body and heaven-defying teeth were included, even an ordinary 8th stage Heavenly Dao expert would not be his match. With 4 Heavenly Dao experts guarding the forbidden area of the magic hall, they were naturally full of confidence. It would be fine if the primeval heavens I did not come, but if he really came, the result would definitely be exciting. Unfortunately, the primeval heavens I was unable to know all of this. Currently, he was leading an elite army under his command, going around the Black Bank at the end of the left end of the Milky Way, heading towards the forbidden area of the magic hall on the left end of the right bank. This time, the Heavenly Daos I was determined to destroy the entire forbidden area of the magic hall and take it for himself. He apart from the 7 Heavenly Dao generals, including the Weeping Soul Beast, there were also thousands of powerful experts, hundreds of desolate supremacies, and ancient beasts below the level of powerful experts. Dang. However, it was inconvenient for such a huge army of beasts to rush over from the left bank, so the entire army of ancient beasts was swallowed into the Heavenly Dao's eye's stomach. Now only he, the Weeping Soul Blood Ape, and the other 6 Heavenly Dao beasts were rushing over in the void. These figures were all Heavenly Dao old monsters, so their speed in traveling through the void was naturally very fast. In just a few days, they had already rushed from the left end of the right bank to the forbidden area of the magic hall on the left end of the right bank. Without the slightest hesitation, he directly charged into the forbidden star domain of the Devil Palace. Screech! Roar! 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 In the next moment, the primeval heavens eye descended, and a green vertical eye as huge as a star appeared in the void. Behind it, there were 7 enormous Heavenly Dao beasts, and one of them was the Weeping Soul Blood Ape. Other than the green eye of the primordial Heavenly Dao, the other 7 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts were all roaring loudly. This was especially so for the Weeping Soul Blood Ape. When it let out a vicious roar, a circle of blood-colored ripples surged from its single horn and rapidly spread out. This was the bloodline ability of the Weeping Soul Blood Ape. It could cause some kind of invisible interference to the minds of the members of the 6 great armies of the Magic Hall in the abandoned stars in the depths of the forbidden area of the Magic Hall. A woo! Rumble! Bam! In the next instant, a long howl that shook the heavens sounded, and a huge black boar suddenly appeared behind the Weeping Soul Blood Ape without any warning. No! With a moment of hesitation, the old pig spirit, who stood up like a human, directly raised his hoof and smashed it on the back of the Weeping Soul Blood Ape's head, causing its huge body to explode into a cloud of blood mist in a shocking rumble. Then it was swallowed by the old pig spirit. At the same time, Shirwanjin, the Emperor Beast, and the devouring treasured body also appeared in 3 other directions in the void. Swish! Walala! With the sudden appearance of the devouring treasured body, a cold glint flashed in his eyes as he waved his hand. Almost at the same instant, a blood-black beam shot out from the devouring treasured body's hand. It expanded rapidly and in the blink of an eye, it transformed into a blood-black cauldron the size of a star. It was none other than the Netherworld Furnace. Netherworld Furnace? You are indeed the one who refined it. You are Yi Xian's avatar? Upon seeing the Netherworld Furnace appear in the sky, the old pig spirit, the Emperor Beast, and Shirwanjin, who had just killed the Weeping Soul Blood Ape, arrived in the other 3 directions. Instantly, the green vertical eye that was as large as a star emitted angry exclamations. This, although the Netherworld Furnace's furnace spirit's combat strength was only comparable to the first stage of the Heavenly Dao realm, it was a primordial treasure at the level of an epic-making artifact. It was forged from a mysterious and powerful metal. Furthermore, it was personally forged by the primeval Heaven's Eye. Typical Heavenly Dao realm experts, even late-stage Heavenly Dao realm experts at the 7th or 8th stage, as long as their cultivation level was not stronger than the primeval Heaven's Eyes, it was impossible for them to erase the primeval Heaven's Eyes brand and forcibly refine the Netherworld Furnace. He originally believed that the one refining the Netherworld Furnace was Yi Xian's actual body, but when he saw the devouring treasured body conjure it, he realized that he had underestimated the Magic Hall's forbidden zone. Originally, the primeval Heavens I believed that the one refining the Netherworld Furnace was Yi Xian's actual body, but when he saw the devouring treasured body conjure the Netherworld Furnace, he finally realized a problem. He had underestimated the Magic Hall's forbidden zone. He originally believed that the Magic Hall's forbidden zone only had 2 Heavenly Dao patriarchs, which were the Pig Spirit and the Arch Beast, but now there were 2 more. They were the devouring treasured body and Shirwanjin. Although the devouring treasured body was only at the 5th stage of the Heavenly Dao realm, he was able to erase his brand on the Netherworld Furnace. Furthermore, he was Yi Xian's avatar, so his means were definitely extraordinary. His combat strength was probably not something a mid-stage Heavenly Dao realm expert could compare with. As for Sherwan Jin, he was at the 7th stage of the late-stage Heavenly Dao realm. Furthermore, the primeval heavens I had personally seen him bite a tiny hole in the barrier that enveloped the Sour Nest star. Just this ability alone made it obvious how difficult it was to deal with him. In fact, other than the 2 additional Heavenly Dao patriarchs, the Archbeast and Pig Spirit that he had expected also gave the primeval heavens a fright. A few years ago, the Archbeast was only at the 2nd stage of the early stage Heavenly Dao realm. Now, it was at the mid-stage of the 4th stage Heavenly Dao realm. Elder Pig Spirit was even more frightening. Back then, he was only at the 1st stage of the Heavenly Dao realm. Now, he was at the peak of the 9th stage of the perfected Heavenly Dao realm like Yi Xian. Although his combat strength was definitely incomparable to Yi Xian's, he was at least stronger than him. With these thoughts flashing through his mind, the primeval heaven's eye's heart immediately sank to the bottom of the valley. However, he did not hesitate at all. This was because, including him, the desolate army still had 7 Heavenly Dao patriarchs. They might not necessarily be at a disadvantage. Furthermore, he still had more than 100 desolate supremacies, more than 1,000 mighty figures, as well as an ancient beast army that numbered in the tens of millions. At this level, the magic hall was absolutely unable to compare with the desolate army under his command. Whoosh whoosh, 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 whoosh. At that moment, a ferocious roar sounded. A vortex appeared in front of the giant vertical eye that resembled a star. A large number of ferocious beasts appeared from within and shot out. Very soon, they gathered into an army. They were all ancient and powerful wild beasts, numbering in the tens of millions. Roar! 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 The moment this desolate beast army appeared, they charged straight for the depths of the magic hall's forbidden star domain. They were like a surging torrent that wreaked havoc in the void. At this moment, the 6 legions under Devil Hall's command also showed up. From the abandoned stars deep in the Forbidden Land, countless battleships, starships, and ferocious beasts rushed out and assembled into an army, rumbling as they approached. Hum! Whoosh! A deep hum sounded, accompanied by the rattling of chains that shook the heavens. At that moment, the treasured body of Devouring had conjured the Netherworld Cauldron's domain. The entire cauldron that was as massive as a star began to tremble slightly. The 10,000 runic chains on the cauldron's exterior instantly soared into the sky, as they intertwined to form a mysterious pattern in the void. Only formless oppressive force emanated out, forming a mysterious domain that sealed the void within 100 billion kilometers. Just the sealing force formed by the Netherworld Cauldron's domain was clearly insufficient to stop a mid-stage Heavenly Dao realm expert's teleportation. But, at the same time, the suppressive auras of Pig Spirit, the treasured body of Devouring, and the Archbeast emanated as well, augmenting each other invisibly. Instantly, the sealing force was reinforced, making it impregnable. From this stance, it was clear that it wanted to leave behind all the invaders that had descended here today and completely annihilate them. Even Heavenly Dao realm experts were no exception. It was as though it was beating a dog behind closed doors. It wanted to annihilate all of them. Roar! The Archbeast's body spanned hundreds of millions of kilometers. At that moment, it raised its head and roared angrily. It took a step forward and charged at the desolate beast army. A voice transmission was emitted from it. All of you, hold back these 7 old freaks. Kill Azure Eye first. As for the desolate beast army, I'll deal with it. Phew! 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 At the same time, an extremely sharp sound tore through the air as 4 beams of light shot out from the Archbeast's massive body. They expanded with the wind and transformed into 4 heavenly kings. They lined up in a row and spanned across the void. The cultivation auras that emanated from their bodies were all at the desolate supremacy level 9 perfection. Half-step Heavenly Dao realm. Howl! A shrill howl resounded, causing the void to tremble slightly. It gave off a terrifying feeling to one's soul. The moment the 4 heavenly kings appeared, Heavenly King Di Hun raised his head and roared. The War Raja that was fused into Heavenly King Di Hun's body was the Weeping Soul War Raja. The kinetic force within the War Raja was the Weeping Soul Beast race. This War Raja, the strength of the Weeping Soul War Raja was directly related to the level of life forms of the Weeping Soul Beasts within the War Raja. After being tempered by the Thunder Luster Spirit Mist, the tens of millions of Weeping Soul Beasts in the thousands of beehive nodes within the War Raja had all leveled up to become Weeping Soul Golden Apes. There were even 300,000 Genesis Realm Weeping Soul Purple Apes among them, but that was a long time ago. Now, the tens of millions of Weeping Soul beasts were almost all at the Undying level. Among them, there were more than 300,000 Universe Masters and more than 30,000 Universe Supremes. As Heavenly King Di-Hun raised his head and roared, all the Weeping Soul beasts in the Weeping Soul War Raja began to move. In the thousands of beehive nodes with a diameter of 3,000 meters, tens of millions of Weeping Soul beasts activated the unique Weeping Soul spirit ripple of their race and gathered at each node. Shun! Through the special pipes between the nodes, they all surged toward the core node of the core circle and gathered into one. The speed was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a shrill howl that was extremely sharp. Mimic it was like the roar of a raging sea, but it was also like the sound of nature. It spread out in an instant and roared forward. The entire void space of the star sector, which covered an area of tens of billions of miles, started to tremble due to the sudden arrival of this howl. It gave off a terrifying feeling that it was enough to tear the sky apart. The various wild beasts in the army of void space beasts trembled violently. Even their minds and consciousnesses were in a daze at this moment. It was as if their spiritual bodies were being pulled away by the howl and were about to leave their bodies. A formless tidal wave that was like an ocean in the starry sky enveloped their bodies and directly affected their souls, wreaking havoc on them. Roar! At the same time, Heavenly King of Void raised his head and let out a shocking roar. The soldier ladle insignia on his chest suddenly burned and shone brightly. The tens of millions of soldier ladles and the thousands of beehive nodes all started to move under the command of Heavenly King of Void. There were a total of more than 1,000 beehive nodes with a diameter of 3,000 meters, and inside each node, there were tens of thousands of void space soldier ladles guarding, fully activating the unique biological frequency of the soldier ladle race. These unique biological frequency were all transmitted out under the guidance of the soldier ladles in each beehive node. In the thousands of beehive nodes, there were thousands of biological frequency streams like a river. In the blink of an eye, they all flowed along the pipes to the core node of the core circle. Then they gathered into one. Along with the sudden roar of Heavenly King of Void, this terrifying and mysterious biological frequency was like a tsunami. From his mouth, it instantly blasted out in all directions. There were two waves of attacks in succession. The first was the Weeping Soul Beast, which shook the mind and caused the consciousness to be in a daze. Following that, the Heavenly King of Void roared like a tsunami. In an instant, a large number of wild beasts exploded. The scene in the void was bloody mist everywhere. It was extremely tragic. Chapter 51-53. In an instant, as the four Heavenly Kings traversed the void, Heavenly King Di-Hun and Heavenly King Su-Kong each launched a wave of attacks, enveloping the entire wild beast army. Received two waves of attacks in a row. The first was Weeping Soul, which shook the mind and caused the consciousness to be in a trance. Following that, the Heavenly King Su-Kong let out a tsunami-like roar, and in an instant, a large number of wild beasts exploded. The scene in the void was extremely tragic. In just a single exchange, the desolate beast army, which was caught off guard, suffered a heavy blow. At this time, before they could recover from their shock, the 6 great armies of the Demon Palace had already surrounded them from all directions. True, the bloody battle in the starry sky had just begun. At the same time, in the outskirts of the forbidden area of the Magic Hall, the devouring treasure body, the old pig spirit, and Shi-Wan-Jin were facing the 7 primitive Heavenly Dao old monsters, who were led by the Heavenly Dao's green eye. Today, all of you will die. Screech. At this moment, the green vertical eye that was as huge as a star once again let out a shocking roar. The primeval heaven's eye was completely enraged. All the wild beasts in its body had already rushed out, but that huge whirlpool was still there. The one who will die is you. A cold light flashed in Shi-Wan-Jin's eyes. His voice rang out, but he did not hesitate at all. His entire body turned into a ray of light and shot out. His speed was extremely fast. Before the short voice of the divine sense had finished, his body had already entered the huge whirlpool and disappeared. This whirlpool was connected to the Heavenly Dao's green eye's body. It was a passage. The wild beast army that was swallowed into its body previously rushed out from this passage. If Shi-Wan-Jin entered, it was no different from entering the Heavenly Dao's green eye's body. Moreover, it was impossible for him to do nothing after entering. He would definitely push his cultivation to the limit, including all kinds of bloodline abilities. He would not hesitate to use all his strength at the first moment. He, however, the lightning poison tribulation physique had a pair of infuriating teeth. After entering, he would eat everywhere as if he was swallowing. At the same time, he would fully activate the bloodline power of the lightning poison tribulation physique. Boom! Rumble! A bone-chilling thunderous roar came out from the huge green vertical eye. The huge vertical eye that was like a star was instantly blasted open. The corner of the eye cracked open. At the same time, it raised its head and let out an earth-shattering roar. At the same time, its body also began to tumble in the void. It was too great. The lightning in my body exploded, and it contained a strange poison. In addition, Shirwanjin opened his mouth and gnawed at me. This was simply fatal. Even though I was primeval Heaven's Eye, I was caught off guard and was tormented to the brink of death. Bang! Gotcha! Without waiting for Tian Dao's green eye to catch his breath, the old pig spirit, who was walking on 2 legs, had already shot forward and arrived in front of him. The pair of large black hooves that danced like the wind directly met the corner of the green vertical eye. However, it was not just once, but one after another, densely packed like the beating of a drum. The old pig spirit was clearly ruthless. His pair of large black hooves were the hardest part of his body. Now that he was waving them like the wind, his shadow could not be seen. It was dazzling, and it directly increased his power. Under such a dense beating, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The corner of Tian Dao's green eye cracked open, and a dazzling light bloomed from within. After all, he was a powerful existence in the heavenly Dao realm. His sea of consciousness was like a blazing sun, dazzling and eye-catching. Although Tian Dao's green eye's cultivation was strong, the old pig spirit was now at the peak of the heavenly Dao realm at the peak of the 9th step. His cultivation was stronger than his. Now that he was in close range, he raised his sturdy hooves and smashed down. In an instant, he was seriously injured. Even his consciousness fell into chaos. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was on the verge of death. However, he was not dead yet. However, it did not matter because at this moment, the devouring treasured body also made its move. Whoosh! Walala! After a weak sound of something breaking through the air, it was followed by the sound of chains that covered the sky. The devouring treasured body's eyes flashed with a cold light. His figure instantly appeared in front of him. With a wave of his hand, the huge netherworld cauldron that was like a star waved the 10,000 rune chains on the outside of the cauldron down from the sky. It was like a huge seal that smashed into the right corner of Tian Dao's green eye. This was definitely a fatal blow. After all, the netherworld cauldron was made of a mysterious and powerful metal. Like the Shunknown cauldron, it was a primordial treasure of the era. Now that it had been refined by the devouring treasured body and integrated with the strange bloodline power that belonged to the devouring treasured body, its power was even stronger. It would have been fine if he was in his normal peak state, but now, Tian Dao's green eye was seriously injured and on the verge of death. The entire corner of his eye was cracked, and a corner of his blazing sea of consciousness was revealed. Even his consciousness had long fallen into chaos and was in a daze. How could he activate the power in his body to defend? The power of this blow completely smashed into the wall. An earth-shattering sound rang out in an instant. Without the slightest bit of suspense, Tian Dao's huge body, which was 50 to 60 million miles long, instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist and spread out. Shirwanjin's figure was revealed. Swish! The devouring treasured body was already familiar with this. With a wave of his hand, an invisible majestic force surged out, enveloping the majestic blood mist that exploded from Tian Dao's green eye's body. In an instant, it turned into a ray of blood light and entered the devouring treasured body's body. At the same time, there were more than a dozen rays of light that shot out. They were all the heavenly Dao's origin liquid, and now, they were all taken advantage of by the devouring treasured body. At the same time, in the Forbidden Star Sky Central Territory, the bloody battle between the 6 legions of the Magic Hall and the army of desolate beasts had already entered its climax from the beginning. Wang! Wang! The heavenly king of the void activated an invisible shockwave and roared out. This majestic and terrifying biological frequency directly caused the void to tremble faintly. The scene that entered one's eyes was extremely shocking. It gave one an illusion that the entire vast and boundless star field was trembling under the sudden appearance of this high-frequency buzzing sound. Boom! A terrifying sound that was sharp enough to tear apart the sky instantly caused everyone to temporarily lose their hearing. In front of the void, an invisible tide that was like an ocean of stars suddenly burst out. It turned into an invisible force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. In an instant, it enveloped the vast expanse of void within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles, enveloping the large number of desolate beasts that were rumbling in the opposite direction. The power was too strong. Even the three great beings of the universe couldn't withstand it. Their bodies directly exploded. Even the supreme beings of the primordial era and the supreme beings of the primordial era were seriously injured and vomited blood. It was extremely tragic. Boom! Chi-la-la! Rumble! The clear sound of silk tearing like rain resounded everywhere. This vast expanse of void that was tens of billions of miles away was instantly torn apart inch by inch. Within the range of the line, a large number of turbulent void streams shot out. Among them, at a few larger cracks in the void, a large number of turbulent void streams directly formed a void whirlpool that was like a black hole. No one knew how many desolate beasts and exploded flesh and blood were swallowed by it. Chi-la-la! Rumble! The clear sound of silk tearing like rain resounded everywhere. The vast expanse of void that was tens of billions of miles away was instantly torn apart inch by inch. Within the range of the line of sight, a large number of turbulent void streams shot out. Among them, at a few larger cracks in the void, a large number of turbulent void streams directly formed a void whirlpool that was like a black hole. No one knew how many desolate beasts and exploded flesh and blood were swallowed by it. It was simply a massacre in the starry sky. Space beasts below the level of a powerful being, even if they were universe supreme beings, were bound to be crushed like paper in the face of the impact of the endless storm tide surging out from the crack of the void that resembled a black hole. However, this wave of attack was only the power of the heavenly king of void. It was far from over, and it was not all. At the same time, Heavenly King Blood Mosquito let out a shocking roar, and the power of Blood Mosquito Jean-La, which was integrated into its chest, also exploded. The more tragic the situation was, the more it looked like the primordial world army was going to be completely wiped out today. Roar! Screech! Screech! Everything seemed to take a long time, but in fact, it happened in just a few breaths' time. In just a few breaths' time, the desolate beast army suffered heavy losses and was being slaughtered one-sidedly. At the periphery of the starfield, the commander of the army, Primeval Heaven's Eye, was even killed by the devouring treasured body, Shirwan-Jin, and the old pig spirit. At this moment, the remaining 6 heavenly beasts finally reacted. They reflexively raised their heads and roared madly, revealing shocking anger, endless fear, and panic. They did not expect this to happen. None of them had expected such an outcome. Now, they were already filled with regret and wanted to leave as far away as possible. However, unfortunately it was all too late. Whether it was Shirwan-Jin, the devouring treasured body, or the old pig spirit, they would definitely not sit still and watch the 6 of them leave. They would definitely kill all of them here. Not one less. Roar! Is this the forbidden area of the magic hall on the right bank? An 8th level heavenly Dao was killed in one blow. Why do I feel like I'm on the left bank? Damn the old pig spirit. How many years has it been? He's already a peak heavenly Dao at the peak of the 9th level. How did he do all this? It's not scientific at all. We can't fight against him. Let's retreat quickly. Screech, I'm unwilling. Where there's life there's hope. We will avenge Green Eye's death one day. Everyone, let's retreat quickly. Roar! 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 As the voice sounded, the 6 ancient heavenly Dao desolate beasts raised their heads and roared, revealing endless indignation and resentment. However, they did not hesitate and immediately retreated. It wasn't that they didn't want to teleport or tear through the void to leave, but it was impossible. The devouring treasured body had already activated the Netherworld Cauldron's domain to seal the void. Again. Furthermore, with Pig Spirit, Lion Wan-Jin, and the Empyrean Beast fully circulating their cultivation levels, even a Heavenly Dao realm expert would not be able to teleport away at such a close distance. It wasn't that they didn't want to stay behind and fight to the death to avenge Primeval Heaven's Eye, but that was clearly just a beautiful wish. It was impossible to put it into practice. Badia's Heavenly Dao realm experts, they were ancient existences that had lived for countless years. Regardless of the time, the most important thing was ultimately their lives. Heavens! They were afraid that no matter how indignant they were, knowing that they were no match for them and that they were in danger of dying, all they could do was flee. Oh woo! You want to leave now? It's already too late. The old pig spirit raised his head and howled. With a shake of his shoulders, he disappeared from his original spot. This was not teleportation, but extremely fast, surpassing the signs of lightning. Bam! When he reappeared, the old pig's spirit was already behind a heavenly law ferocious beast, blocking his way. He stood up like a human, raised his front hooves, and smashed the heavenly law ferocious beast's body. And without any suspense, the late-stage rank 7 heavenly Dao beast's body exploded into a bloody mist, which was then sucked into the old pig spirit's mouth and swallowed. And the origin liquid of the heavenly way did not appear this time. All the origin liquid of the heavenly way old monsters in the untainted forbidden land was collected by the green eye of the untainted land. When the green eye of the heavenly way died, it was taken away by the treasured body of the devouring treasure. At the same time, the devouring treasured physique and Shirwanjin approached the 2 heavenly law beasts in a flash and attacked at the same time. The result was the same. The 2 heavenly law beasts couldn't withstand a single attack, and their huge bodies directly exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist that was devoured by the 2 of them one after another. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, there were only 3 heavenly Dao beasts left. When the 3 heavenly law ferocious beasts saw that old pig demon, devouring treasured body, and Shirwanjin were so brutal, ruthless, and decisive, and even the true battle strength they displayed was far above the cultivation realm they emitted from their bodies shook violently in an instant. They were so frightened that they once again raised their heads and let out a shocking roar and howl. However, the momentum of their bodies did not stop at all. Instead, because they felt that death was approaching, they became more and more anxious. They were about to reach the periphery of the forbidden land of the magic hall. After sealing the void and ensuring that the heavenly beasts were unable to teleport away, the netherworld cauldron's power and the heavenly Dao suppression that came from pig spirit, the devouring treasured body, Shirwanjin, and the sovereign beast fully activated their cultivation bases did not cover a very large area. It was only 200 billion li asterisk, 500 m per li. As expected, the 3 heavenly Dao beasts were forced to retreat to the periphery of the forbidden land of the magic hall. Even if they rushed out of this area, at that time, the 3 old fellows could directly teleport away or tear through the void. Although the old pig spirit was powerful, he could still continue to chase after them, and there was even a possibility that he could lock onto his target and completely kill them. However, after all, he could not split himself up. His combat power and methods were not as monstrous as Yi Xian. There was no possibility of him chasing after 3 of them. Therefore, if that was really the case, at least 2 of the old fellows would escape, and this was absolutely unacceptable. Realizing that this situation was very likely to happen, the emperor beast in the distance raised its head and roared, and immediately moved. Roar! Ka-cha-cha! Boom! The emperor beast raised its head and roared. Following that, its head, which was as large as a star and covered with beehive-like facets, burst out with an incomparably blazing light. Only huge ball of energy appeared on the emperor beast's mirror head. Its speed was far faster than lightning, and it directly traversed 200 billion miles of space, arriving at the periphery of the forbidden land of the magic hall. It directly blocked the escape route of the 3 heavenly Dao beasts, and in an instant, it exploded. Roar! Ka-cha-cha! Boom! Heaven's roar reverberated through the void as the monarch beast raised its head and roared. Tight following that, its head, which was as large as a star and covered with beehive-like facets, burst out with an incomparably blazing light. A huge ball of energy appeared on the emperor beast's mirror head, its speed far faster than lightning. Straight. After traversing 200 billion miles of space, it arrived at the periphery of the forbidden land of the magic hall, directly blocking the escape route of the 3 heavenly Dao beasts, and in an instant, it exploded. Roar! Ruthless, ruthless. The gigantic ball of energy was clearly formed from pure black death ray. It came from a heavenly Dao old monster like the autarch beast. Even the 3 heavenly Dao beasts did not dare to face it head-on, as they would definitely be injured if they did. Under the roar, their figures, which were originally retreating at an extremely fast speed, came to an abrupt halt in the void. Just like that. In this short moment of delay, the old pig spirit, the devouring treasured body, and Shirwanjin had already caught up. The strength in their bodies was pushed to the limit, and each of them locked onto a target and immediately attacked. A woo! Bang! The old pig spirit was simple and violent. He directly stood on his hind legs, and a pair of huge black pig hooves smashed onto the head of a heavenly Dao beast, directly blasting its body into a cloud of blood mist. He then opened his mouth and devoured it. Shirwanjin opened his mouth and spat out a huge black lightning ball, which exploded in front of a heavenly Tao ferocious beast. He had the lightning poison tribulation physique, and this lightning ball was pitch black in color. It was obvious that it was extraordinary. Half of this heavenly Tao ferocious beast's head exploded, and when Wan Jing got close to it, he punched it in the chest, and its corporeal body also exploded into blood mist. As for the treasure-devouring physique, he turned into a cannonball and blasted into a ferocious beast's body, causing it to explode into a huge cloud of blood mist. Then, all the blood mist rapidly condensed and was directly devoured by him. In just 3 attacks, 3 heavenly Tao beasts had already fallen. This basically represented the end result of the Chaos Forbidden Land, as there were only 20 to 30 million ancient wild beasts left, and the strongest one was only at the Desolate Supremacy Realm. It was impossible for them to escape today, and they were destined to have a tragic end. A woo! Swoosh swoosh! After getting rid of the opponent, Old Pig Spirit raised his head and howled excitedly. In the past few years, he had been too depressed in the forbidden land of the Magic Hall. Today, he was in a good mood after killing so many wild beasts. Sure, Wan Jing and the devouring treasured body did not say a word. They turned to look at the forbidden land and rushed back. They stood at the edge of the forbidden land and watched coldly. Forbidden land in the Earth Starfield, there was still an army of more than 30 million wild beasts that were surrounded by the 4 heavenly kings and the 6 armies of the Magic Hall. The one who made the move now was the heavenly king Blood Mosquito. Roar! Ka-cha-cha! Raising his head and roaring angrily, the sound of machinery grinding could be heard from the heavenly king Blood Mosquito's enormous body. A huge mouth appeared in front of his chest, visible to the naked eye. It was a dark red color that leaned towards black, like dried blood, giving people a very heavy sense of oppression. This. The front half of the core node of the 9th circle inside the mouth of the huge mouth was densely covered with extremely sharp alloy spikes. At a glance, it looked like a huge alloy porcupine. Straight, although only the side of the core node facing the mouth of the horn was covered with alloy spikes, the number of them was extremely shocking. They were too densely arranged, and the total number was as huge as 100 billion. And the hardness of these alloy spikes was also extremely shocking. They were more than 100,000 meters in diameter, several times the material of the main body of the Starry Sky Fortress. Because these alloy spikes were all made by mixing some kind of special mineral or crystal. Each of the alloy spikes was 100 feet long. If thrown as a spear, it would not be a problem to pierce through a battleship or even a fortress. This was the uniqueness of the Blood Mosquito War Raja. It was tailor-made by the forging system according to the characteristics of the mosquito race. The Blood Mosquito War Raja was definitely the only one among the 4 great War Raja that could use physical attacks, and not just energy attacks. Roar! Shio, shio, shio! As the Blood Mosquito War Raja appeared, the heavenly king Blood Mosquito raised his head and roared again. At the same time as his body rushed out, the intense high-frequency vibrating sound produced by the wings of a mosquito beast instantly came from his chest. At this moment, the countless densely packed holes like a beehive let out a low buzzing sound, causing the entire void to tremble slightly, as if there was some kind of resonance. The high-frequency vibrating power was restrained and gathered together. From the various beehive nodes, it gathered towards the core node of the 9th ring. After the special form of the War Raja, when it rushed out of the largest outer ring of the War Raja, it instantly blew out a wrinkle in the void. Within the shockwave, there were clearly countless huge alloy spears made of special materials that could even pierce through stars. Right now, they were covering the sky and covering the earth as they whizzed out. Their power was simply unstoppable. Roar. Screech. Screech. These alloy spikes were pushed to the extreme by the formless shockwave. When they shot out, a formless ripple appeared in the void. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed billions of li and arrived in front of the army of desolate beasts. Like a tide, shocking roars could be heard instantly, revealing endless grief, anger, and despair. Among these desolate beasts, there were many desolate beasts and powerful beings. The rest were basically powerful beings of the 3 realms of the universe. Originally, they were not afraid of the attack of the Blood Mosquito War Raja and could at least avoid it. But now, under the pressure of the heavenly Tao emanating from the Emperor Beast's body, they couldn't move at all. They could only watch as the invisible shockwave wrapped in a sea of incomparably sharp alloy spears rumbled towards them. Pooh! Pooh pu. There was a moment of suspense. Incomparably dull and strange sounds could be heard instantly. Looking over, in the void tens of billions of li in front of them, Bloody holes appeared on the bodies of countless desolate beasts. Even the powerful beings and desolate beasts were no exception. Absolute. Most of the desolate beasts exploded on the spot. Even if some did not die on the spot and were still struggling on the verge of death, they could not hold on for too long. They could not withstand it at all because the four heavenly kings quickly raised their heads and roared angrily. With a flash, they rushed into the army of desolate beasts. Body after passing by, whenever they encountered a desolate beast that had not exploded but was still seriously injured, they immediately threw a punch, causing it to explode and die. This was a bloody massacre. More than 30 million strong desolate beasts were completely annihilated in just a short time. In the blink of an eye, not a single desolate beast could be seen in space. It was suffused with boundless scarlet-red mist of blood, and it died in expanse of space in an area of a few tens of billions of kilometers red. It was a horrifying sight. Until, at this moment, this battle had completely ended. It was also at this moment that the untainted land became history. On both sides of the Milky Way, in this primordial era, its name was erased. Right bank of the Milky Way. Dang primeval heavens, I led the elite army of desolate beasts out of the forbidden land of the untainted land in the middle section of the left bank. They circled around the vast dark area at the end of the left end of the Milky Way, and arrived at the forbidden land of the Magic Hall in the left section of the right bank. The news quickly spread on the right bank. Over the past few years, the various ferocious beast forbidden lands and the upper echelons of the remnant star region on the right bank had always sent small scouting teams to lie in ambush in the distant void outside the Magic Hall's forbidden lands. They were closely monitoring everything that happened in the forbidden land of the Magic Hall. Whenever there was any movement, the news would be immediately transmitted to the various ferocious beast forbidden lands and the remnant star region on the right bank. This was because the reputation of the master of the Magic Hall, Yi Xian, was too great. His growth was too shocking. A few hundred years ago, he was only an immortal realm expert. In just a few hundred years, he had crossed the 3 realms of the universe and the 2 realms of supreme expert and desolate supremacy, becoming a heavenly Dao old monster. Even after entering the heavenly Dao realm, his growth did not slow down. Instead, it sped up. In just a few decades, he had already reached the peak of the heavenly Dao realm at the great perfection of the 9th step. Even the entire right bank of the left bank was intimidated by him alone. Even the 6th-ranked ferocious beast on the left bank's heavenly Dao ferocious beast list was no match for him and was killed in public. Therefore, as for the appearance of the nether wolf and black blood fiend crocodile, these 2 terrifying old geezers of the prehistoric world, they were actually unable to suppress him, and they took the initiative to exile him within the boundless chaotic flows of the prehistoric world that was filled with danger. Because the master of the Magic Hall, Yi Xian, had not perished and was only banished on his own accord. Even though the upper echelons of the ferocious beast forbidden lands and the remnant star region coveted the Magic Hall's forbidden lands, they did not dare to make a move. They sent out small teams of scouts to monitor the distant void outside the Magic Hall's forbidden lands. On one hand, they wanted to see if the master of the Magic Hall, Yi Xian, would return. On the other hand, they wanted to find out more about the overall strength of the Magic Hall's forbidden lands. When the primeval heavens I descended with 7 heavenly Dao ferocious beasts and charged into the Magic Hall's forbidden lands, summoning Pang Da's army of tens of millions of desolate beasts to attack the Magic Hall's forbidden lands. The scouts hiding in the distant void immediately reported this matter back to their respective forbidden lands and star regions factions. When this matter had just started, the heavenly Dao's old monsters and peak desolate supremacies from the ferocious beast forbidden lands and the remnant star region's forbidden lands had already secretly rushed over. They hid in the distance and watched everything closely. However, they did not expect that a total of 8 heavenly Dao ferocious beasts, including the primeval Heaven's Eye, leading an army of tens of millions of desolate beasts, including hundreds of desolate supremacies and thousands of powerful figures, would be completely slaughtered in less than the time it took to eat a meal. Including the primeval Heaven's Eye, who was a level 8 heavenly Dao expert, not a single one of them managed to escape. They were all wiped out. Dang, when the battle came to an end and everything was over, the distant void of the Magic Hall's forbidden lands fell into a deathly silence. Following that, there were sounds of gasps and all sorts of shocked cries that resounded through the void. Hiss. This is too shocking. Such a grand army was actually wiped out in just the time it took to eat a meal? The strength of the Magic Hall's forbidden lands is actually this strong. Heavens, that black pig is actually at the peak of level 9 heavenly Dao. How did that fellow cultivate? It's simply heaven-defying. There's also that Emperor Beast. Although it's only at level 5 Heavenly Dao, with the 4 mechanical mantids integrated into its body, its true battle strength is probably comparable to that of a level 7 Heavenly Dao expert. Other than that, there are actually 2 Heavenly Dao old monsters in the Magic Hall's Forbidden Lands that we've never seen before. One of them is at level 4 Heavenly Dao, and he actually stole the primeval Heaven's Eyes Netherworld Furnace. The other is at level 7 Heavenly Dao. Where did these 2 fellows come from? It doesn't matter where they came from. What's important is that the Magic Hall's Forbidden Lands are not something we can provoke. 8 Heavenly Dao experts were wiped out in the time it took to eat a meal. This kind of strength, even if placed on the left bank of the Milky Way, would be considered to be in the middle class. Let's disperse. It's not good to stay here any longer. Even if the master of the Magic Hall, Yi Xian, hasn't returned, this Magic Hall's Forbidden Lands are not something we can mess with. If we continue to stay here, it would be bad if we cause a misunderstanding. That's right. Just the Magic Hall's Forbidden Lands are already so strong. Once the master of the Magic Hall returns, including his battle strength, who in the entire right bank can go against him? We can't afford to offend him. We can't afford to offend him. Roar! Ruthless. In the end, these Heavenly Dao old monsters and peak Baron supremacies raised their heads and roared, revealing their unwillingness. However, they didn't stay any longer. They led the scouts sent by their respective forces and retreated, leaving far away. At least they're tactful. The treasure-devouring body's divine sense had been paying close attention to everything that happened outside the Magic Hall's Forbidden Lands. At this moment, seeing these peak Baron supremacies and Heavenly Dao old monsters from the right bank's Forbidden Lands and the abandoned star region leaving one after another, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He snorted coldly and said, "Fight!" The cleanup began and ended very quickly. The 6 armies of the Magic Hall went back to where they came from. Soon, they dispersed and returned to the abandoned stars in the depths of the Forbidden Lands. The entire forbidden grounds of the Demon Hall once again regained its tranquility. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that an earth-shattering massacre had just taken place here. Even the old monsters of the Heavenly Dao had fallen in this place. 1 month later, right bank in the vast dark area in front of the shore, in the silent void around the base camp of the Source Nest Star. Swoosh! A weak sound broke through the air, and an undetectable light appeared. Yi Xian's figure instantly appeared. He looked around as a cold light flashed in his eyes. He subconsciously clenched his fists. This lord is back. Without stopping before his voice faded, his figure had already swept out. He instantly arrived at the distant Source Nest Star and swept it with his divine sense. After confirming that there was nothing abnormal, he landed on the surface of the star. There were no longer any patrolling scouts on the surface of the Source Nest Star. All of them were lurking in the dark. This was also under Yi Xian's orders. Now that the 2 banks of the Milky Way weren't peaceful, he was afraid that a cosmos expert would pass by and notice something amiss. Dang! However, if someone were to really suppress their figure and stop on the surface of the Source Nest Star, the upper echelons of the base camp would immediately take action and kill them to prevent the news from leaking out. Such as the Source Nest Star had long been devoured by the giant life plume on the Wild Dragon battleship. Beneath the shallow layer of rock on the surface was the entire giant life plume. It was extremely massive. Heavens! Even if a Heavenly Dao realm expert were to descend, the giant life plume on the Wild Dragon battleship would be caught off guard and annihilate them with a full-powered strike. The Source Nest Star was massive to begin with, and now, it had become the giant life plume on the Wild Dragon battleship. The interior of the giant life plume used spatial folding technology, so it was extremely vast with no end in sight. After Yi Xian entered the interior of the star, the news of his return quickly spread. Looking around, there were large numbers of ferocious astral beasts surging over. Chapter 51-54. After Yi Xian entered the interior of the star, the news of his return was quickly spread. As far as the eye could see, there were a large number of space beasts rushing over. Gui Hai Yi Dao, Cong Qing Yu, Nai Buishan, Ba Chai, Zhuafeng Tai, and other great beings of the demon race were among them. Baoqua Ba Jin was among them, but Flying Centipede and Silver Geode Monster had entered the other origin nest stars, so they were not here. All the generals under Yi Xian's command rushed over, and they were all very excited. This time, he had not been away for a long time, but it had been several years. After exchanging pleasantries, Yi Xian checked everyone's cultivation, and he was delighted. Over the past few years, the subordinates who had stayed in the origin nest star had been cultivating wholeheartedly, and their cultivation progress was very gratifying. The 8 great beings Gui Hai Dao, Cong Qing Yu, Nai Buishan, Ba Chai Zua Feng Tai, and the other leaders of the demon race army were all great beings of the primordial era, and they were at the late stage of this realm, not too far away from the level of a desolate master. As for the 20,000 great beings of the demon race under Gui Hai Dao and Cong Qing Yu, without exception, they all had the battle power of a universe master. Although they were only at the initial stage, as long as they had a large amount of cultivation resources, it would not be long before the entire demon race army of 20,000 people made great progress in their cultivation. One Gui Hai Dao and Cong Qing Yu had been leading this demon race army of 20,000 people, and Yi Xian had been cultivating it as an elite trump card troop. All these years, he had invested a lot of top-notch cultivation resources, and now it seemed that the results were extremely amazing. However, this was obviously not enough, and everything had to continue. Thinking that there would be a demon race army of 20,000 universe supreme beings soon, Yi Xian felt very gratified. Even he was looking forward to the ultimate height of this elite demon race army that had followed him since the beginning. Perhaps in the future, there would be an elite demon race army made up of all great beings of the primordial era. Apart with the demon race army, the space beasts in the 10 million beast army under Pig Demon's command also made great progress in their cultivation. If, today, there were more than 100 desolate masters in the entire beast army. As for the great beings of the primordial era, there were more than 1,000, and there were more than 10,000 universe knights, universe masters, and universe supreme beings. They were all at least at the level of a titled Undying. This was definitely an extremely elite ferocious beast army. Their overall strength even surpassed the ferocious beast army of the 6 great armies in the Forbidden Star Field. Of course, the Heavenly Dao realm combat strength of Desolate Knight and above was not included. After all, there was not a single Heavenly Dao realm master among the 10 million ferocious beasts. After all of the primordial era, of the 8 great warriors, quickly gave him an introduction. Although the base of the Source Nest base camp had yet to the world, of the universe of the origin, of the star had and the of the 8. And of the primordial era, of the 8 quickly gave them. The 8 great guardian deities also explained the details of the shocking battle that took place in the forbidden grounds of the Demon Palace a month ago. The primeval Heaven's Eye. Has it finally been killed? Speaking of the fall of the primeval Heaven's Eye, even the last 7 Heavenly Dao realm beasts under its command, as well as the entire ancient desolate beast army of tens of millions, were all killed in the forbidden star domain of the Magic Hall. Yi Xian immediately felt relieved, and a look of sorrow appeared on his face as he muttered softly. Naturally, it was inevitable for him to feel sorrow, because this meant that the primordial world of this era had completely become history, and its name had been erased. Back then, his greatest enemy was the Tianji race, but he had long exterminated them. Back then later, Yi Xian's greatest enemy became the primeval Heaven's Eye, but now, it had been annihilated in the annals of history. It wasn't only him. The grudges and obsessions in the headless infant's corpse's heart should have dissipated as well. He had been entangled with the primeval Heaven's Eye for countless years, so he probably never expected that the primeval Heaven's Eye and its subordinates would be completely wiped out by Yi Xian without him being present. Everything was not completely over, because there was still Xing Bo. To Yi Xian, apart from probing the secrets of the mysterious homeworld and pursuing the ultimate goal of the supreme chaos, the only thing left on his mind was Xing Bo and the secrets of the devouring system he created. No, there was no need to be anxious about all of this. Everything would come to light before the start of the next primordial era. Swoosh! Swoosh! Putting aside the sorrow in his heart, Yi Xian immediately waved his hand, and a large amount of top-grade cultivation resources, including various levels of elixirs, were immediately sent out by him. He divided them into 2 portions, put them into 2 storage treasures, and sent them to the 8 great guardian warriors. Of these 2 portions of cultivation resources, one is for your use in the Source Nest base camp, and the other is to be escorted to the forbidden area of the Magic Hall by a few desolate supremacy beasts. Give it to Old Pig for the use of the subordinates of the Magic Hall over there. Seeing that one of the 8 great guardian warriors received the 2 storage treasures, Yi Xian continued, there is a large amount of 9-colored elixirs, chaos elixirs, and a considerable amount of elixirs of various levels, including level 29 elixirs and level 30 desolate supremacy elixirs. There are quite a lot of them, enough for your use. Soon, the conditional opening of the Milky Way star field will arrive. Before that, the forbidden area of the Magic Hall will be in the light, and the Source Nest base camp will be in the dark. You all will guard each other. There is no need to fight outside. Focus on cultivation and improve your cultivation as much as possible. Once the conditional opening of the Milky Way starfield arrives, it will be the time to enter the Milky Way starfield and start the Milky Way starfield hegemony. I'm afraid there will be no time to cultivate then. Swoosh! After saying that, Yi Xian no longer hesitated. He nodded to the 8 great guardian warriors, Gue Hai Yi Dao, Cong Qingyu, and the others as a greeting. Then, he turned around and rushed out of the Source Nest base camp, disappearing into the dark void in the distance. Since everything was as usual in the forbidden area of the Magic Hall, and even the primeval Heaven's Eye that he was most worried about had been killed, then there was no need for Yi Xian to rush there. After leaving the Source Nest base camp, his destination was still the left bank of the Milky Way. For example, today, his cultivation base was at the 5th level of the Heavenly Dao realm. There were still 4 small levels to break through before he could consume the level 31 primordial pill. Although with Yi Xian's cultivation speed, it wouldn't take long for him to break through 4 small stages under normal circumstances. However, a few years wasn't an issue. Although a few years wasn't a long time, to the current him, he felt that he couldn't wait any longer. In the current primordial void, there were already more than a dozen primordial Dao realm experts after the Heavenly Dao realm. He had a very strong premonition that the conditional opening of the Milky Way starfield would arrive soon. Before that, Yi Xian had to make his cultivation base reach the primordial Dao realm. Otherwise, how could he compete with these old monsters of primordial Dao for the next era? How could he protect his subordinates in the forbidden area of the Magic Hall and the Source Nest base camp? Therefore, he had to go to the left bank and look for the ferocious beasts ranked in the top 10 of the Heavenly Dao roll to battle with the survivors. He had to forge ahead amidst the bloodshed and increase the speed of his cultivation base as much as possible. After returning from the primordial void, Yi Xian decided to go to the left bank and look for the ferocious beasts ranked in the top 10 of the Heavenly Dao roll to battle with the survivors. He had to forge ahead amidst the bloodshed and increase the speed of his cultivation base as much as possible. After leaving the Source Nest base camp, he immediately rushed to the end of the right bank. From the end of the Milky Way star's end, he made a detour to the left bank. Journey Yi Xian considered all aspects and decided not to show his true appearance to others, including the ferocious ape and the 3-headed, 6-armed demonic ape true form. This was because it would undoubtedly let the experts on both sides of the Milky Way know that the master of the Magic Hall, Yi Xian, had returned from the primordial void. After all, there were more than a dozen primordial Chaos Dao realm experts on the left bank of the Milky Way. Yi Xian was no match for any one of them. Knowing that he was no match for them, there was no need to attract the attention of these primordial chaos old monsters. Even if Yi Xian had the interstellar coordinate jump ability, even if he was targeted by the primordial chaos old monsters, as long as he reacted quickly, he could activate the interstellar coordinate jump ability attached to the system in his body and escape. However, if there were some treacherous fellows among these primordial chaos old monsters who couldn't catch him, they would learn from primeval Heaven's Eye and attack the forbidden area of the Magic Hall on the right bank to force him to show himself. That would be bad. Therefore, on this trip to the left bank, Yi Xian used the Blood Sea mystic art to change his appearance into the appearance of a ferocious astral bear. Moreover, with the demon soul pupil's disguise, Yi Xian was sure that even if he accidentally encountered the primordial Chaos Dao realm old monsters, they wouldn't be able to see his true appearance. Bag including the big-headed black cudgel, the Shun-known cauldron, the heaven-falling bow, and the 3-headed 6-armed demonic ape real body, it was best not to use them on this trip to the left bank. Of course, if he needed to use them in a big battle, there was no other way. However, in Yi Xian's opinion, with the 10-colored flame and the spiritual power mystic art, it should be enough just to find the ferocious beasts ranked in the top 10 of the Heavenly Dao roll on the left bank and fight the remnant old monsters alone. Under the 9th transformation of the 9 changes of the demonic ape bloodline, although his cultivation realm was still at the peak of the 9th stage of the Heavenly Dao realm and was suppressed by the primordial Chaos Dao, his real combat strength was far from what it was a year ago. After all, during this 1 year, the strength of his true body had broken through 2 minor realms in the boundless primordial chaos. So, he was able to make a breakthrough in his true body. Therefore, Yi Xian only used half a month to reach the right bank of the left bank from the right bank to the left bank. However, he did not stop at the right bank of the left bank. His figure was a bloody bear that was about 10 feet tall. He had already fully activated the spiritual power mystic art of perfect vibration, causing his figure to disappear and his aura to converge. From the dark void in the distance of the right bank of the left bank, he headed towards the middle of the left bank. After passing through the middle section, he did not stop and directly rushed to the left bank of the left bank. Today, on the left bank of the Milky Way, there were a total of 13 primordial chaos old monsters, including the nether wolf and the black blood demon crocodile that Yi Xian had met a year ago. Of the 13 primordial chaos old monsters, 3 were on the left bank, 3 were on the right bank, and the remaining 7 were all in the middle of the left bank. The left bank of the Milky Way was originally far stronger than the right bank of the Milky Way. At this time, until now, in each of the ferocious beast forbidden lands and the remnant star fields on the right bank of the Milky Way, the strongest experts were still only the desolate venerable old monsters. There were no heavenly Tao old monsters at all. However, on the left bank of the Milky Way, even the weakest ferocious beast forbidden lands and the remnant star fields would definitely have more than 2 heavenly Tao old monsters guarding them. Such as, among the 3 sections of the left bank of the Milky Way, the middle section was the strongest. In the entire middle section, there were as many as 7 primordial chaos old monsters after the heavenly Tao. To Yi Xian, the middle section was truly too dangerous. The chances of accidentally encountering a primordial chaos old monster, or attracting the attention of a primordial chaos old monster due to a great battle, were far greater than the right and left sections. Therefore, after some consideration, Yi Xian decided to go to the left bank first. Of course, it was not that he did not want to go to the middle section of the left bank, but he would at least have to wait until the level 31 primordial chaos pill was refined before he could make such a plan. Because in that case, even if he was trapped, as long as Yi Xian raised his cultivation base to the peak of the heavenly Tao of the 9th stage, even if he was trapped, he would be able to swallow a level 31 primordial chaos pill and break through to the primordial chaos Tao realm after the heavenly Tao. Moreover, his level 31 primordial chaos pill was different from the 9 heavenly Tao elixir that Hong Ke refined. Even if the ferocious beast old monsters and the remnant old monsters in the Meng Void obtained enough 9 heavenly great Tao elixir to break through to the primordial chaos great Tao realm after consuming it, it would still take a long time for them to successfully break through. It would easily take millions of years. However, the greatest characteristic of the primordial chaos pills that Yi Xian refined was that they took effect quickly. The level 1 elixir to the level 30 heavenly Tao elixir were the same. After swallowing them, it would take at least a few days to a year to break through. Namely, it was the same for the level 31 primordial chaos pill that was about to be refined. In that case, as long as he had the level 31 primordial chaos pill in hand, even if he encountered a primordial chaos old monster in the middle section of the left bank and had no choice but to conjure the 10 colored flames to protect himself, he would not be able to leave and fall into a predicament. Then, in a predicament, as long as Yi Xian's cultivation base reached the peak of the heavenly Tao of the 9th stage, he could immediately swallow a level 31 primordial chaos pill. In just a year, he would successfully break through to the heavenly Tao realm and step into the primordial chaos Tao realm after the heavenly Tao. First, once his cultivation base stepped into the primordial chaos Tao realm after the heavenly Tao, the suppression of the primordial chaos Tao that had always existed to him would no longer exist. Second, at that time, Yi Xian's 9 transformations Devil Ape bloodline ability would be displayed once again. Once this bloodline ability was activated and used to its 9th transformation state, he would instantly possess the cultivation base of the primordial chaos peak of the 9th stage. In other words, it would be fine if Yi Xian did not break through to the primordial chaos Tao realm after the heavenly Tao. However, once he successfully broke through, he would become the strongest person in the primordial chaos Tao realm. At that time, he could just retract the 10 colored flames. Even if there were more than 10 primordial chaos old monsters surrounding him, Yi Xian would not be afraid. He could easily beat them to a pulp. Bang! Just breaking through to the primordial chaos peak of the 9th stage from the peak of the heavenly Tao of the 9th stage required tens of millions of years of seclusion. Then, in the primordial chaos Tao realm, even a small breakthrough was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Embrace. Compared to them, Yi Xian, who had the 9 transformations Devil Ape bloodline ability, would have an absolute advantage. As he calculated all of this in his mind, Yi Xian became even more eager to break through to the peak of the heavenly Tao of the 9th stage. Second, with this thought in mind, he concealed his figure and restrained his aura. In just a short month, he had rushed from the right section of the left bank to the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land. Heavens! The Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land was guarded by a demonic blood Heavenly Bull. This was a type of space bug. It was called the demonic blood Heavenly Bull because its antennae were similar to a bull's horns. This demonic blood Heavenly Bull's cultivation base was extraordinary. On the left bank's Heavenly Tao Savage Beast list, it was ranked 8th. Short. In a short month, Yi Xian had already rushed from the right side of the left bank to the left side of the left bank. He headed straight for the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area on the left side of the left bank. Due to the fact that he'd activated the perfect mental energy technique, his aura was completely restrained, so everything was silent. The Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land was guarded by a demonic blood Heavenly Bull. This was a type of space bug. Because its antennae were similar to a bull's horns, it was called the demonic blood Heavenly Bull. This demonic blood Heavenly Bull's cultivation base was extraordinary. It was ranked 8th on the left bank's Heavenly Dao Savage Beast list. As for its specific realm, there was naturally no need to say much. Even the Longjing, which was ranked 10th, was at the peak of the Heavenly Dao of the 9th stage, so the demonic blood Heavenly Bull, which was ranked 8th, was obviously the same. However, although its realm was the same, its battle strength was obviously much stronger than the Longjing. However, no matter how strong it was no pressure to Yi Xian. A year ago, he had already killed the tyrant blood Silver Wolf, which was ranked 6th on the left bank's Heavenly Dao Savage Beast list, in a head-on battle. Today, he had broken through 2 small realms in the past year. Killing the demonic blood Heavenly Bull, which was ranked 8th, was completely a piece of cake. There was naturally more than one Heavenly Dao Savage Beast guarding the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land. It was said that there were more than a dozen of them, but it was impossible for all of them to be in the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land. Some of them must have gone out or entered the parallel void to cultivate in seclusion. This, Yi Xian didn't care about anything at all. His target was the demonic blood Heavenly Bull. Although the demonic blood Heavenly Bull was definitely not as strong as him and was destined to be killed by Yi Xian in a battle, he was after all ranked 8th on the left bank's Heavenly Dao Savage Beast list. In addition to the other Heavenly Law beasts that were guarding the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area, if they joined forces, Yi Xian would indeed be able to temper himself and allow his cultivation to advance as he tempered himself. As for the almighty figures and Huang Zun under the Heavenly Dao, he wasn't interested. After killing all the Heavenly Dao savage beasts in the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land, including the demonic blood Heavenly Bull, Yi Xian would immediately leave. After all, there were still 3 Grand Mist Old Monsters behind the Heavenly Dao in the left bank. If he delayed for too long and attracted one of the 3 Grand Mist Old Monsters, the result would be extremely troublesome. Even Yi Xian would have a headache. Xiao. With these thoughts in mind, Yi Xian only used a day to reach the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land after arriving at the left bank. Without any hesitation, he directly rushed into the Forbidden Land star region. At this moment, his appearance was that of a blood-red violent starry sky bear. He was about 3 meters tall, but he was in the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape bloodline ability. Therefore, his cultivation base was at the peak of the 9th step of the Heavenly Dao. Moreover, his aura was extremely thick and condensed. Even his perfect mental power secret technique had been fully activated, so he did not make a sound when he shot into the Celestial Ox Forbidden Land stellar region. Even the demonic blood Heavenly Oxen in the depths of the Forbidden Land stellar region did not sense anything out of the ordinary. Xian's divine sense instantly effused out, and it was fully utilized. In an instant, it enveloped the entire Sky Bull Forbidden area, and not a single trace in the vast region of stars could escape his detection, causing it to be a panoramic view. 4 among the 4 Heavenly Dao savage beasts, 2 were in the middle stage of the Heavenly Dao, 1 was in the late stage of the Heavenly Dao, and the last was the demonic blood Heavenly Bull, who was at the peak of the 9th step of the Heavenly Dao like him. In an instant, Yi Xian's divine sense had completely locked onto the auras of the 4 Heavenly Dao savage beasts. On the other hand, his figure was revealed at the same time that the energy of his divine sense spread out. He was like an inflated ball that expanded explosively in the wind, and in the blink of an eye, he was already 25 million kilometers in size. He was like a blood-red star that lay across the center of the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area. This venerable one blood bear has come here to challenge. At the same time, his divine sense voice sounded. His voice was muffled and deliberately changed, revealing an endless sense of arrogance. Demonic blood Heavenly Bull and the other 3 Heavenly Dao sovereigns, come out. This venerable one will challenge all of you alone. Roar! 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 Just as he finished speaking, 4 shocking roars and roars came from 4 different directions in front of him and the depths of the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land at the same time. All the other ferocious beasts hiding in the abandoned planets in the Forbidden Area didn't dare to do anything. However, the 4 old monsters of the Heavenly Way led by the demonic blood Heavenly Bull rushed out of their respective cavern mansions. as they rushed over, their furious divine sense voices rang out. It's just a violent bear, how dare you speak such arrogant words? So what if you're at the peak of the 9th step of the heavenly Tao? Isn't this the cultivation base of this venerable one? You actually dare to say that you'll fight 1 against 4. You're simply courting death. Since he wants to die, then there's no need to be polite. Let's join hands and kill him. I hope you don't turn around and run. That's tantamount to slapping yourself in the face. Where would the heavenly Tao old monster's face go? Boom! Rumble, rumble, rumble. As these furious divine sense voices sounded, for incomparably huge figures, each of them 40 to 50 million miles long, also shot out from all directions. In the blink of an eye, they had already entered the void within 100 billion miles. Together, they attacked Yi Xian in the form of a violent bear. The void suddenly rumbled with thunder, revealing an endless killing intent. Good one. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Yi Xian, who was in his violent bear form, instantly flashed forward and punched towards the demonic blood heavenly ox, who was the strongest in terms of cultivation, in front of him. This time, his purpose in coming to the heavenly bull forbidden land was not the heavenly Tao origin liquid, nor was it the heavenly Tao blood essence. Of course, after killing these 4 heavenly Tao beasts, he would get these rewards, but his main purpose was to train himself. Therefore, other than the fallen sky bow, the big-headed black stick, and the demonic ape's true body, he would not use any of his methods, abilities, or treasures to prevent his identity from being exposed. Yi Xian did not even plan to use the 10 colored flames that he had just completed the fusion not long ago. Before the fusion, the 9 colored flames were already enough to strike fear into the hearts of any heavenly Tao elite. This time, with the addition of the red lotus karmic fire and the transformation of the 10 colored flames after the fusion, even old freak primordial chaos had to be wary of it. Such as today, he was only dealing with 4 heavenly Tao beasts. If Yi Xian used the 10 colored flames, the battle would be over in an instant. He would not even have the chance to warm up. In this way, the purpose of using a bloody battle to train himself would be out of the question. In this battle, Yi Xian would not use any other methods. He would only use a pair of fists to fight the 4 heavenly Tao beasts led by the demonic blood heavenly bull. At most, he would occasionally use 1 or 2 spiritual lightning spells or annihilation spears and other spiritual power secret techniques. Boom! When these thoughts flashed through his mind, his full-powered punch had already collided with the demonic blood heavenly bull's attack. Incomparably violent energy surged in the void, wreaking havoc for billions of kilometers, and produced a shocking explosion. Hiss! The demonic blood heavenly bull was clearly not his match. The pair of antennae on its head directly broke off, and it let out a vicious howl as its body was sent flying backward. Boom! A shocking explosion rang out. Yi Xian's full-powered punch collided with the demonic blood heavenly bull's attack in the blink of an eye. Incomparably violent energy surged in the void, wreaking havoc for billions of kilometers. Hiss! The demonic blood heavenly bull was clearly not his match. The pair of antennae on its head directly broke off, and it let out a vicious howl as its body was sent flying backward. Their bodies were about the same size, around 50 million kilometers. Their cultivation strength was the same as well. They were both at the peak of the heavenly Tao at the 9th level of perfection. Well, Yi Xian, who had transformed into a violent starry sky bear, was a nobody, while the demonic blood heavenly bull was ranked 8th on the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast list. Judging from this, the demonic blood heavenly bull should have the upper hand. However, in reality, the result of their full-powered attack was the exact opposite. Yi Xian, who had transformed into a violent starry sky bear, was still standing in the void, and his body was extremely stable. However, the demonic blood heavenly bull had broken a pair of antennae, and it let out an incomparably shrill howl. Its body was like a stone roller that was blown by a violent wind, and it was sent flying backward. This scene was too shocking. The other 3 heavenly Tao ferocious beasts that were charging over were instantly dumbfounded. Their incomparably huge bodies came to an abrupt halt in the void, and even their originally incomparably fierce auras suddenly froze. They subconsciously revealed looks of fear. They were only at the mid-stage and late stage of the heavenly Tao. Facing such a powerful violent starry sky bear that could send even the demonic blood heavenly bull, who was at the peak of the heavenly Tao at the 9th level of perfection, flying with a single punch, how could they withstand it? What? You're scared? Who was the one who said not to turn around and run just now? You're slapping yourself in the face? After sending the demonic blood heavenly bull flying with a punch, Yi Xian turned to look at the three heavenly Dao ferocious beasts. As he spoke, his body shot forward, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of one of the mid-stage heavenly Dao ferocious beasts. Boom! Boom! Bang! Before this heavenly Dao ferocious beast could react, Yi Xian punched out again, and a huge fist that was like a meteor directly smashed into its huge body. This fellow was only at the mid-stage of the heavenly Dao ferocious beasts. Facing Yi Xian's full-powered attack, it could not withstand at all. Its entire huge body exploded the moment the huge fist landed, turning into a scarlet blood mist that spread out. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Yi Xian immediately waved his hand, and the sound of a violent wind immediately rang out. An incomparably majestic invisible force whistled out, sweeping up the majestic blood mist that was spreading out and directly sending it to the bottom of the central region volcano in the cauldron space, starting the blood essence condensation. Division. In addition, 3 thin rays of light shot over and landed in Yi Xian's heart. They were 3 portions of compressed heavenly Dao origin liquid. This was a pleasant surprise, and his harvest was not bad. The battle had just begun, and he had already obtained 1 heavenly Dao blood essence and 3 portions of heavenly Dao ferocious beasts. There were also 3 heavenly Dao ferocious beasts around him, and one of them was even the demonic blood heavenly bull, the strongest among them. He probably had a lot of heavenly Dao origin liquid in his hands. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Yi Xian, who was in his bear form, immediately licked his lips. With a cold glint in his eyes, he turned around and rushed toward another mid-stage ferocious beast. Where did such a ferocious bear come from? I've never heard of this on the left bank. What the F***CK? At this moment, the demonic blood heavenly bull, who had been sent flying by Yi Xian's punch at the beginning, had already stabilized its body. It was furious. We can't let him attack us one by one. We have to attack together and fight together. We have to use all our strength. Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, his figure had already disappeared from the spot. He used teleportation and instantly appeared in front of Yi Xian, attacking with all his strength once again. Whoosh! At the same time, the other 2 heavenly Dao ferocious beasts were also awakened by his words. Their bodies trembled violently, and without any hesitation, one opened its mouth and spat out a huge energy blade, while the other directly charged toward Yi Xian. The void along the way collapsed, and its power was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, the 3 heavenly Dao ferocious beasts had already formed a tripartite balance. They appeared 10 billion kilometers away from Yi Xian and attacked at the same time, attacking Yi Xian with all their strength. Now this is what a heavenly Dao expert looks like. However, these 3 old fellows did not escape in fear. Instead, they closed in together and pushed the power in their bodies to the limit. At the same time, they launched their strongest attacks at him. Violent a satisfied expression immediately appeared on the bear's face. Yi Xian's voice rang out. Unfortunately, even this won't change anything. Today, all of you will die. Rumble. Bam! Bang bang bang. Oofed. Before he could finish speaking, Yi Xian's shoulders shook, and his incomparably huge figure instantly arrived in front of the demonic blood heavenly bull. This time, he did not simply throw out a punch, because a single punch would not be able to kill this demonic blood heavenly bull. Instead, it would cause the other party's body to tumble backwards, which would be a waste of time. Out in front of him, Yi Xian raised his left hand and grabbed the demonic blood heavenly bull's abdomen. Then he clenched his right hand into a fist and rapidly punched the bull's back. In just 3 short breaths of time, the demonic blood heavenly bull had suffered more than 10 heavy punches. It was completely stunned, its head buzzing, and for a moment, it was unable to take any defensive measures. Part 1. At the same time that the 13 punches landed, the demonic blood heavenly bull's incomparably huge body finally exploding into a bloody mist that spread out in the air. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Yi Xian immediately waved his hand. The sound of a violent wind immediately rang out, and an incomparably majestic invisible force suddenly appeared, sweeping up the majestic bloody mist that was spreading out and directly sending it to the bottom of the central region volcano in the cauldron space, starting the blood essence condensation. As expected, it did not disappoint him. 7 rays of light shot out from the exploded bloody mist and landed in Yi Xian's heart. They were 7 portions of compressed heavenly Dao origin liquid. The quantity was far greater than that of the mid-stage ferocious beast just now, which made Yi Xian extremely satisfied. Roar! Screech! Damn it, Where the hell did this violent bear come from? In a head-on battle, it actually exploded the heavenly bull in just 3 short breaths of time with just a pair of bare fists. This is at least the battle strength of the top 3 on the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beast list of the left bank. Could it be that another old monster who has not appeared for a long time has just come out of seclusion? It's really too tragic. It actually chose our Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land as a sacrifice. I'm afraid it's going to be difficult to escape today. We can't beat it, there's no need to continue fighting. Let's split up and escape. At least one of us has a chance to escape. Swish swish. As the voices of these divine senses filled with fear sounded out, the last 2 remaining Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts no longer hesitated. Before the voices of the divine senses could finish, their bodies had already stopped abruptly in the air. Without the slightest hesitation, they turned around and fled in different directions. I just praised you too, but you turned around and fled before I finished speaking. Isn't this too disappointing? Where is the face of the Heavenly Dao old monster left? Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's eyes flashed with a cold light. He immediately activated the power in his body and teleported to chase after them. Unfortunately, even if you all split up and flee, it won't change anything. This sovereign will definitely kill them all. Chapter 51-55. I just praised you a little before you turned around and ran away. Aren't you too disappointing? Where's the face of the Heavenly Dao old monster? Seeing the 2 Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts turn around and run, a cold light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. He immediately activated the power in his body and teleported. Unfortunately, even if you split up and run, you won't be able to change anything. I will kill you one by one. Swish. Before the voice of the divine sense could finish, an incomparably weak sound of something tearing through the air rang out. His incomparably huge figure directly appeared billions of miles behind the Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beast on the left. Suitable in the process of killing the demonic blood Heavenly Bull over a dozen times within 3 breaths. Yi Xian did not have time to dodge the attacks of the 2 Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beasts at all. All of them landed on his body. It was impossible to say that it did not hurt. After all, it was a full-powered attack from a Heavenly Dao expert. At that time, Yi Xian felt his blood boil, and he was rather angry. Therefore, now that he was close to one of the beasts, he did not hesitate at all and immediately threw a punch. Rumble. Bang. A loud sound rang out in the sky. This Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beast could not dodge in time. The huge fist that was like a meteor smashed directly onto its huge body. This fellow was the other mid-stage Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beast. It could not withstand Yi Xian's full-powered attack at all. Its huge body exploded the moment the huge fist landed, turning into a scarlet blood mist that spread out. Phew! The sound of a strong wind could be heard. Yi Xian, who was in the form of a violent bear, waved his hand. An incomparably majestic invisible force whistled out, sweeping up the majestic blood mist that was spreading out and directly sending it to the bottom of the central region volcano in the cauldron space, starting the condensation of blood essence. Division in addition, 2 rays of light shot over and landed in Yi Xian's heart. They were 2 portions of compressed Heavenly Dao origin liquid. The entire process flowed smoothly like flowing water, and it terrified the last ferocious beast out of its wits. While its figure shook violently, it didn't stop moving, and the voice of begging for mercy resounded out. Fellow Taoist Balrog, you've already achieved your objective. From today onwards, the 8th position on the Heaven Dao Ferocious Beast rankings on the left bank is yours. I haven't ascended the rankings, so it's useless to kill me. Gotcha? Yi Xian's eyes flickered with a dark light. Seeing that this old fellow was about to escape, he immediately activated the spirit core that was floating above his sea of consciousness. In that instant, his mental energy moved and directly activated the spirit lightning technique. With a crisp cracking sound, a blood-red lightning bolt with a diameter of thousands of miles appeared above the head of the late-stage ferocious beast in the distance. While it was unprepared, the old guy's figure immediately stopped in the void. Obviously, it was confused. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian teleported and appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. With a cold glint in his eyes, he smashed his huge fists down one after another. Bang bang bang. Pfft. After only 3 hits, the old man's body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. There were 3 rays of light in the blood mist. They were 3 portions of compressed Heavenly Dao origin liquid. 1. It wouldn't be a waste. The blood mist and Heavenly Dao origin liquid were swept over, and Yi Xian directly absorbed them into his body. This battle came to an end. His harvest was not small. He had obtained 4 Heavenly Dao blood essences and more than 10 portions of Heavenly Dao origin liquid, which made Yi Xian extremely satisfied. Unfortunately, it was just a battle like this. The gains from the previous breakthrough were not enough to completely integrate them. The opportunity for another breakthrough has yet to come. Feeling the power in his body, Yi Xian muttered softly, a trace of regret appearing on his face. However, he subconsciously clenched his fists. But it doesn't matter. One battle is not enough. I'll continue. Next target, ranked 7th on the left bank's Heavenly Dao Ferocious Beast list. Phoenix-tailed blood fox. Hiss! Just as he finished muttering, an incomparably clear sound of ripping cloth could be heard. Yi Xian did not stay any longer and directly tore open a spatial rift with a wave of his hand. With a shake of his shoulders, he immediately rushed into it and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Even after he disappeared, the huge Heavenly Bull Forbidden area was still deathly silent. After a while, from the abandoned stars in the depths of the Forbidden area, figures finally rushed out one after another. These figures were all Supreme Expertess and Desolate Sovereigns of the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area. There were quite a few of them, but it was obvious that they were all scared out of their wits. All of their faces were filled with fear that could not be dispersed, and even their bodies were slightly trembling. As they looked at each other, the Supreme Expert and the Desolate Sovereigns slowly regained their senses. In an instant, a tidal wave of cries of alarm resounded throughout the entire Forbidden Star field. Damn it! Where did this violent bear come from? It's actually so ferocious. After the violent ape from all those years ago was annihilated and forced into the chaotic flows of the primordial chaos, a similarly hateful violent starry sky bear appeared on the left bank. Its methods were too cruel, its actions were too arrogant, and it actually almost annihilated our heavenly Ox Forbidden Land. With such arrogant actions, he is destined to not be arrogant for long. He will soon be suppressed. So what if he is at the peak of the 9th stage great perfection? So what if he can suppress Lord Heavenly Bull, who is ranked 8th on the left bank? Back then, the violent ape was so stunning, but it still couldn't escape the fate of being exiled. This violent bear is far from it. Once the news spreads, his misfortune will soon descend. This violent bear won't be able to jump for long. Roar! Ruthless! As the final roar and howl rang out, some of the powerful beings and desolate supremes rushed out of the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Land star domain and scattered in all directions. We have to spread the news of the violent bear of the starry sky as soon as possible and incite public anger. We have to let the heavenly beasts of the other forbidden areas on the left bank, and even the 3 grand mist old monsters who are guarding the left bank, take revenge for the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area. Now, among the top 10 heavenly beasts of the left bank, 4 of them had been killed by Yi Xian. Ro the dragon whale ranked 10th. The frost blood blue crocodile ranked 9th. The demonic blood heavenly bull ranked 8th. And the overbearing blood silver wolf ranked 6th. However, among the 4 heavenly beasts of the left bank, the demonic blood heavenly bull ranked 8th was killed by Yi Xian using the identity of the violent bear of the starry sky. So until now, the outside world still didn't know his true identity. They didn't know that the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, had returned from the Grand Mist turbulence. This time, the great battle in the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area didn't allow Yi Xian to once again obtain an opportunity to break through. However, he wasn't far away, and the next place he needed to go was the Blood Fox Forbidden area. If nothing unexpected happened, the opportunity to break through again would come after this battle. The Blood Fox Forbidden area was also located on the left bank. Although it was not far from the Heavenly Bull Forbidden area, it was not close either. The strongest person guarding the Blood Fox Forbidden area was a phoenix-tail blood fox. This old fellow was ranked 7th on the left bank's heavenly beasts of the left bank. Its cultivation base was second only to the overbearing blood silver wolf that Yi Xian had killed. The Blood Fox Forbidden area was also located on the left bank. The strongest person guarding the Blood Fox Forbidden area was the phoenix-tail blood fox. This old fellow was ranked 7th on the left bank's heavenly beasts of the left bank. Its cultivation base was second only to the overbearing blood silver wolf that Yi Xian had killed. It was obvious that there wasn't only one heavenly Dao ferocious beast in the forbidden land of Fox. Yi Xian didn't know how many heavenly Dao ferocious beasts there were in the forbidden land, so he didn't care. With his current cultivation base, What did he have to fear even if there were more heavenly beasts in the Blood Fox Forbidden Area? After leaving the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Area, Yi Xian shrunk his body. Although he was still in his violent bear form, he was only about 3 meters tall. Moreover, he used the perfect vibration spiritual power secret technique again to hide his body and aura in an instant. He immediately rushed toward the Blood Fox Forbidden Area. It only took him a day to arrive at the Blood Fox Forbidden Land. He directly rushed into the Forbidden Land star region and spread out his divine sense to cover the entire vast void of the Blood Fox Forbidden Land. At the same time, his figure and aura that had been concealed by the secret technique of the perfect vibration of spiritual power were also revealed. At that time, the news of the tragic murder in the Heavenly Bull Forbidden Area had not reached here yet. Therefore, the ferocious beasts in the Blood Fox Forbidden Area were completely unaware of the appearance of the violent star bear and its rampage on the left bank. Now that a peak Heavenly Dao at the peak of the 9th stage had suddenly barged into the Blood Fox Forbidden Area without permission, it immediately attracted the attention of the Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts in the Blood Fox Forbidden Area. Xian's divine sense had already completely enveloped the void of the Blood Fox Forbidden Area. He captured a total of 3 Heavenly Dao auras, and he instantly locked onto them. Roar! Ruthless! Violent bear, why have you barged into my Blood Fox Forbidden Area? You have to give me an explanation for this matter. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for you to leave easily today. When Yi Xian spoke, a heaven-shaking roar and ruthless howl sounded out from the depths of the Blood Fox Forbidden Grounds. There was even an arrogant and disdainful voice of divine sense that didn't contain the slightest bit of fear. This existence that was clamoring for Yi Xian to give an explanation, or else it would be difficult for him to leave, was clearly the strongest person in the Forbidden Area, the phoenix-tailed blood fox that was ranked 7th on the Heavenly Dao ferocious beast list on the left bank. This old fellow was very arrogant. Yi Xian was also a peak Heavenly Dao at the peak of the 9th stage, but he spoke like this. It was obvious that he did not put Yi Xian in his eyes. It was no wonder that the existence ranked 7th on the Heavenly Dao's Heavenly Beast list on the left bank had the right to be proud. Here at this moment, as the incomparably cold and arrogant divine sense sound resounded through the void, 3 rays of light shot over from 3 different directions in the deepest part of the star domain. These were the 3 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts that were currently guarding the Blood Fox Forbidden Area. Here the one that shot over was the phoenix-tailed blood fox. This old fellow was 50 million kilometers in size, and his form was that of a blood fox. His entire body was covered in a blood-red mane that made one's heart palpitate. However, there were countless furry blood-red foxtails behind him that looked like phoenix tails. That was why he was called the phoenix-tailed blood fox. In addition to this phoenix-tailed blood fox, there were also 2 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts that shot over from the left and right sides of the Forbidden Area. Their cultivation was not weak, and they were all at the late stage of the 7th stage of the Heavenly Dao. Only 3? It's a little small, but it's basically enough for me to move my muscles and bones. A cold light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes when he saw the 3 old fellows shooting over. At the same time that his divine sense sounded out, he instantly activated the Blood Sea secret technique. His figure, which was originally only around 3 meters tall, expanded in the blink of an eye and only stopped when he was 50 million kilometers away. Roar! Come together and save me the trouble. I'll get rid of all of you together. Raising his head and roaring, the violent bear that was 50 million kilometers in size took large strides forward in the void. The words that came out of its mouth were even more arrogant than the phoenix-tailed blood fox. This unknown violent star bear actually dared to speak like this. This was simply a slap in the face, causing the phoenix-tailed blood fox to fly into a rage. He immediately made a move and attacked with all his strength. Since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. Phoenix tail covers the sky. Rumble. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. An incomparably cold light flashed in the phoenix-tailed heavenly fox's eyes. As soon as the voice of his divine sense sounded, an earth-shattering rumble of thunder resounded in the void, and a strange and inexplicable aura instantly spread out. It was accompanied by countless dense and sharp sounds of the air being torn apart, causing one's scalp to go numb. It was very clear that in his fury, the old fellow had actually executed his strongest bloodline ability. Phoenix tail covers the sky. Behind his enormous body that was 50 million kilometers in size, there were originally countless furry fox tails that were intertwined together. They were even larger than his body. Now, with the execution of his strongest bloodline ability, Phoenix tail covers the sky, the countless blood-colored foxtails behind the phoenix-tailed bloodfox instantly loosened and spread out. They expanded in the wind, and in the blink of an eye, they covered the sky and earth and shot toward Yi Xian from all directions. In just half a breath, they had already enveloped 10 billion kilometers of the void. Roar! Roar! At the same time, the two late-stage Heavenly Dao experts that had shot over from the left and right of the depths of the Bloodfox Forbidden Land once again raised their heads and let out a wild roar. Without the slightest hesitation, their figures were like lightning, and they directly charged into the 10 billion kilometers of void that was enveloped by countless huge fox tails. A cold light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. He turned around and saw that the void within 10 billion kilometers had already been sealed. Huge blood-colored foxtails were everywhere, and they were as agile as giant pythons in the starry sky as they attacked him together. Apart from, with these countless strange foxtails, there were also 3 incomparably huge figures in 3 different directions. They also activated the strongest power in their bodies and attacked with loud rumbles. This scene indeed gave people a feeling of astonishing power. Even if it was an ordinary person at the peak of the 9th step, when suddenly trapped in such a situation, their heart would probably suddenly sink, and they would have a bad feeling. However, Yi Xian was the opposite. When he saw the phoenix-tailed bloodfox use its strongest bloodline ability to seal him in a cramped place with a radius of 10 billion kilometers, it even immediately joined forces with the other 2 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts that were guarding the Bloodfox Forbidden Land and attacked him with all their might. Such a scene refreshed his spirits and even gave birth to a feeling of joy. Here Yi Xian's goal in coming to the Bloodfox Forbidden Land this time was not as simple as killing these 3 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts. What he really wanted was to use this kind of hunting to temper himself as much as possible in a bloody battle. How without a doubt, this seemingly dangerous situation was the best for Yi Xian's goal of tempering himself in a bloody battle. In other words, all of this was actually what he wanted. The 3 of you are really too considerate. You are so enthusiastic right from the start. You are really making this sovereign happy. No matter what. Thank you. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the violent bear had already rushed out. Its pair of iron fists danced in the air, and in an instant, it started a bloody battle with the 3 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts and the countless python-like foxtails that covered the sky and covered the earth. The 3 of you are really too considerate. You are so enthusiastic right from the start. You are really making this sovereign happy. No matter what. Thank you. Before the voice of the divine sense could finish, the violent bear form of Yi Xian had already rushed out. Its pair of iron fists danced in the air, and in an instant, it started a bloody battle with the 3 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts and the countless python-like foxtails that covered the sky and covered the earth. Boom! Rumble! Roar! Screech! In the air, an earth-shattering rumble instantly sounded out, causing one to be shocked. However, this vast space of 10 billion kilometers was completely enveloped by the countless giant blood-colored foxtails behind the phoenix-tailed blood fox. From the outside, it was impossible to see the scene of the great battle inside. Where therefore, the ferocious beasts of the Forbidden Grounds in the depths of the Bloodfox Forbidden Grounds were not worried at all. There were even some mighty figures and desolate supremacy beasts of the Forbidden Grounds, who rushed out of their respective cave abodes and stood in the void to watch the battle from afar. However, the cultivation of the starry sky violent bear that suddenly invaded this time was not weak. It was a peak Heavenly Dao at the great perfection of the 9th stage. However, the strongest person guarding their Bloodfox Forbidden Land, the phoenix-tail bloodfox, was also an expert of this realm. Moreover, it was ranked 7th on the ferocious beast list of the Heavenly Dao on the left bank. Coupled with the other 2 late-stage 7th-order Heavenly Dao beasts, it was a 3-on-1 battle. In their opinion, the battle would definitely be one-sided. Time slowly passed, and the great battle continued. In this 10 billion kilometer space sealed by countless blood-colored foxtails, earth-shattering rumbles continued without end. It could be seen how intense the bloody battle inside was. At the beginning, the roars and howls were still very noisy, but later on, after 2 consecutive explosions, the originally noisy roars and howls in this space sealed by countless blood-colored foxtails instantly decreased by a lot. However, the mighty figures and desolate supremacies of the Bloodfox Forbidden Grounds, who were watching the battle from afar, did not think too much about it. This was because they did not think that this violent bear that had come to court death would have a chance to leave this place alive today. Very quickly, the time it took to eat a meal passed. Bang! Bang bang bang! A woo! At this moment, 7 or 8 earth-shattering sounds were heard in succession, followed by an incomparably shrill scream, causing the mighty figures and desolate supremacies of the Blood Fox Forbidden Grounds who were watching from afar to be stunned at the same time. This was because this scream was too familiar. It was the voice of the strongest person in the Blood Fox Forbidden Grounds, the phoenix-tailed Blood Fox. At this moment, a thought flashed through their minds. Their bodies trembled violently, and their faces turned pale. They all gasped, "Bang!" Before anyone could recover from their shock, the battlefield in front of them once again shook the heavens. The countless blood-colored foxtails that covered billions of miles of space exploded at the same time, turning into a vast and boundless blood mist that filled the void. Then, when the blood-red foxtails exploded, everything within the sealed space was revealed. Surprisingly, there was only one figure inside. Shockingly, it was the violent starry sky bear that had invaded today. Until the other two late-stage ferocious beasts that were guarding the phoenix-tailed blood fox and the Blood Fox Forbidden Grounds had long disappeared. It was obvious that they had fallen, and even their bodies had been blown apart. Whoosh! The howling of the wind sounded. Yi Xian, who was in the form of a violent bear, waved his hand, and an incomparably majestic invisible force whizzed out. The boundless blood mist that was spreading in the surrounding void was instantly swept over and sent directly to the bottom of the volcano in the central region of the cauldron, starting the blood essence condensation. In addition, there were also more than 10 rays of light that shot over and landed in Yi Xian's heart. They were more than 10 portions of compressed Heavenly Dao origin liquid. In this battle, he had once again obtained 3 Heavenly Dao blood essences. As for the Heavenly Dao origin liquid, his harvest was also not small. There were more than 10 portions, which made Yi Xian extremely satisfied. Roar! Hiss! In the surrounding void, the mighty figures and desolate supremacies of the Blood Fox Forbidden Grounds were already stunned. Their mouths were agape as they glanced around. The violent ape raised its head and let out a shocking roar. Then, it waved its hand and tore open a void crack in front of it. Very quickly, its body shrank, and with a shake of its shoulders, it rushed into the void crack and disappeared. The battle could be said to be hearty, and the opportunity to break through had arrived. Yi Xian had no interest in staying in the Blood Fox Forbidden Grounds. Now that he had left, the first thing he would do was to find a suitable place to go into seclusion and break through to the 6th order of the Heavenly Dao. In the dark void in front of the left bank, Xiao! A weak sound of breaking through the air rang out, and a figure suddenly appeared. It was Yi Xian in the form of the violent bear. Turn around. After looking around and confirming the direction, he didn't hesitate any longer and immediately flashed out, rushing towards this area that was even deeper within the vast and dark void. After a few days, an abandoned star appeared in front of him. The location was extremely remote and inconspicuous. It was the best place for seclusion. Yi Xian used his divine sense to investigate. After confirming that there was no abnormality, he immediately rushed into the core of the abandoned star. He took out the shrunken farmer god cauldron and stepped into the mouth of the cauldron, which was shrouded in 9-colored fog, and sat down cross-legged. Xiao, xiao, xiao! With a wave of his hand, a weak sound of breaking through the air rang out. Rays of light shot out and suspended in front of Yi Xian. They were the cultivation resources that he took out from the undying world in his body for this breakthrough. With a flash of light in his eyes, the farmer god cauldron's domain was activated by him. All the cultivation resources were compressed to the size of a nascent soul fist, and then swallowed into his stomach with a wave of his hand. Walala! The nascent soul fist ball melted in his mouth and turned into a majestic river of energy in the blink of an eye. It slowly flowed out in Yi Xian's body, while, as expected, the clanging sound of the shackles filled the air. This time, only one shackle appeared. This meant that the cultivation resources that he had swallowed this time were enough to stimulate the shackles that represented the bottleneck of his cultivation. As long as he could tear it apart, he would be able to smoothly break through. With his heartstrings relaxed, he quickly focused his mind and used all his strength to activate the huge river of energy that had just formed in his body. It began to circulate in the hundreds of meridians in his body again and again. After half a month, the huge river of energy that had formed in the meridians in Yi Xian's body had been completely refined. With just one impact, the incomparably thick shackles had been broken. As for the anticipated system notification, it quickly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through the realm of the ancient Dongshu mantra. Current realm. Level 6 of the Heavenly Dao. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through the realm of the physical body's qi and blood. Current realm. Level 6 of the Heavenly Tao. In the next moment, Yi Xian opened his eyes. A trace of excitement flashed in the depths of his eyes. Very obviously, the suppression of the primordial Tao still existed. Therefore, after this breakthrough, his cultivation was still at the peak of the 9th stage Great Perfection Heavenly Tao under the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape. However, at the very least, after this breakthrough, his true battle strength had clearly soared by a large margin. More importantly, there were only 3 small stages left before he could consume the level 31 primordial pill. With this breakthrough, Yi Xian's true battle strength had once again soared by a large margin. More importantly, there were only 3 small stages left before he could consume the level 31 primordial pill. 3 small stages. It was not a lot, but it was not a small number either. After this breakthrough, he had gone through a huge battle and assimilated all the gains from the previous breakthrough into his body. He had welcomed the opportunity for a breakthrough and then went into seclusion to break through normally. Therefore, in the next breakthrough, Yi Xian could once again attempt to consume the Heavenly Tao blood essence and forcefully break through to the 7th stage of the Heavenly Tao, which was the late stage of this stage. However, before consuming the Heavenly Tao blood essence and attempting to forcefully break through, he would have to go through at least 2 more huge battles to ensure a success rate. Whoosh! These thoughts flashed through his mind. Without hesitation, he rushed out of the mouth of the Shenong cauldron, which was shrouded in 9-colored fog. With a wave of his hand, he put the cauldron into his body. Then he activated the Blood Sea secret technique again to transform into the violent star ape and rushed out of the core of the abandoned planet where he was in seclusion. The destination of this trip was still the left section of the left bank. This was because the fearsome beast forbidden grounds overseen by the 5th and 4th ranked fellows on the left bank's Heavenly Tao Savage Beast list were both in the left section of the galaxy. Currently, half of the powerful existences in the top 10 of the left bank's Heavenly Tao Savage Beast list had been killed by Yi Xian. The 10th ranked Dragon Whale, the 9th ranked Frost Blood Blue Crocodile, the 8th ranked Demonic Blood Heavenly Bull, the 7th ranked Phoenix-tailed Blood Fox, with the 6th ranked Silver Blood Silver Wolf. As for the rest of the 5 old fellows, he did not plan to let them go either. He would find them one by one, and while tempering himself in battle, he would kill them and obtain the Heavenly Tao blood essence and the Heavenly Tao origin liquid in their hands. Up until now, other than the 2 Grand Mist Old Monsters, the Underworld Wolf and the Black Blood Demon Crocodile, the strongest opponent that Yi Xian had encountered was the Blood Tyrant Silver Wolf, who was ranked 6th on the Heavenly Tao rankings. However, in fact, even if the Silver Blood Silver Wolf encountered the current Yi Xian, without using top-grade treasures like the Shenong Cauldron, the Big-Headed Black Stick, and the strongest divine ability like the Heaven-Falling Bow, Yi Xian could still kill it in a short period of time. During the year in the primordial chaos, Yi Xian had consecutively broken through 2 small stages. After returning, Yi Xian had just broken through another small stage. After breaking through 3 small stages, Yi Xian activated the bloodline divine ability of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape and displayed the 9th transformation. Although his cultivation was still at the peak of the Heavenly Tao Great Circle of the 9th stage, his combat strength was far from what it was before. His next target was the 5th ranked demonic blood flying bear on the left bank's Heavenly Tao Savage Beast list. The demonic blood flying bear was the strongest expert in the demonic bear forbidden land. Its cultivation was also at the peak of the Heavenly Tao Great Circle of the 9th stage, but its combat strength was definitely stronger than the Silver Blood Silver Wolf. However, Yi Xian did not care about this at all. According to his estimation, although this demonic blood flying bear was stronger than the Silver Blood Silver Wolf, it was not much stronger. With his current combat strength, he could still suppress or even crush it head-on with his fists. Although the demonic blood flying bear forbidden land was on the left bank, it was close to the middle section of the star domain. Now that Yi Xian had returned from the vast and boundless dark area in front of the left bank, he was rushing over there. Swish! Less than half a day after leaving this abandoned planet, a faint sound of breaking air suddenly came from the dark void in front of him. Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately followed the sound. This was the vast dark area in front of the left bank, and it was still very far away from the left bank of the Milky Way. Even with his cultivation strength, it would take him more than half a day to reach the left bank from here. It was the most suitable place to meet a powerful expert in the Heavenly Tao Great Circle and train himself in a great battle. At the same time, he could kill them and steal their treasures. At that time, he was in the form of a violent bear. His body was about 10 feet tall, and he was in the state of using a perfect vibration spiritual power secret technique to hide his body and hide his aura. As such, even if Yi Xian activated the cultivation in his body and rushed over with all his might, the other party would not be able to detect his aura at all. They could not sense his existence at all. Everything was silent. In front of him in the distance, an enormous cosmic ferocious beast appeared in his line of sight. This ferocious beast was 50 million miles long. It was a black bear with a mane like needles all over its body. It was dark and cold, and there was a pair of blood-red bone wings on its back. Its wingspan was astonishing, and the tips of its bone wings were as sharp as knives. With a flap, it could probably even split a planet. As for the cultivation aura that emanated from its body, it was the same as Yi Xian's, the perfect ninth stage of the Heavenly Tao Great Circle. This was a powerful ferocious beast with cultivation at the peak of the Heavenly Tao Great Circle. With such a cultivation level and its characteristics, Yi Xian instantly understood the other party's identity and origin. He was stunned, and the expression on his face immediately became strange. Demon, the strongest expert in the forbidden land of the bears, the demonic blood-flying bear. Yi Xian was originally rushing towards the forbidden land of the demonic bears, and his target this time was this demonic blood-flying bear. However, he did not expect that before he reached the left section of the left bank and was still in the vast dark area in front of the left section, he would unexpectedly encounter the target of this trip. This was also good. This place was incomparably secluded. Even if there was a shocking bloody battle, it would not attract too much attention in a short period of time. It was the best opportunity to suppress this demonic blood-flying bear and temper himself in a bloody battle. Roar! With these thoughts flashing through his mind, Yi Xian no longer hesitated. He raised his head and roared angrily. The power in his body was pushed to the limit, and it instantly turned into an invisible pressure that completely locked onto the demonic blood-flying bear in the void hundreds of millions of miles away. In the next moment, Yi Xian's figure also appeared. His body, which was originally only about 10 feet tall, was like a balloon that had been blown up. It rapidly expanded, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 50 million miles long. In an instant, the atmosphere in the void froze. The two ferocious beasts looked at each other from hundreds of millions of miles away. Both of them were in the form of violent bears, and the cultivation aura that emanated from their bodies was also at the peak of the perfect ninth stage of the Heavenly Tao Great Circle. Only, the difference was that the Yi Xian here was a violent starry sky bear with a mane as red as blood, while the one standing in the void hundreds of millions of miles away was a black flying bear with a pair of sharp bone wings on its back. You are the violent starry sky bear that has been wreaking havoc on the left bank recently? As Yi Xian's figure appeared, the aura of his cultivation turned into a pressure that imperceptibly locked onto the other party's chi. This demonic blood-flying bear also turned to look at him. A cold light flashed in its eyes, and the killing intent in its body grew stronger. It said in a muffled voice, "You actually dare to ambush this sovereign. You are truly audacious." Obviously, the news of Yi Xian wreaking havoc on the left bank in the form of a violent starry sky bear had already spread. This demonic blood-flying bear had already heard everything about him. But this didn't matter. To Yi Xian, the demonic blood-flying bear in front of him was just an existence that could be killed in a single battle. Everything else was just floating clouds. Chapter 51-56. Roar! Rumble! Raising his head and roaring, Yi Xian didn't say a single word of nonsense. He instantly moved and charged towards the demonic blood-flying bear in front of him. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he punched out. In an instant, rumbling sounds of thunder could be heard. Wherever the huge fist passed, space would rapidly collapse. The strength of this punch was too violent. Even a peak Heavenly Tao at the perfection stage of the ninth order would have a change in expression upon seeing it. But the demonic blood-flying bear did not do so. He was no ordinary ninth order great perfection Heavenly Tao. As a terrifying existence ranked 5th on the left bank's Heavenly Tao ferocious beast list, typical peak Heavenly Tao experts were nothing in his eyes. Darn violent bear. How dare you take the initiative to attack this supremacy? Yi Xian's initiative to attack infuriated him. The demonic blood-flying bear looked up and roared incessantly. This is a blatant provocation and disregard. Today you will pay the price for this. Roar. Boom. Flap. Before the angry roar faded, the demonic blood-flying bear had already charged forward. The pair of gigantic bone wings on its back flapped crazily. Its speed was so fast that even Yi Xian was caught off guard. All he saw was a blur as his right chest instantly felt a burning sensation. He did not dodge this strike. The demonic blood-flying bear had arrived in front of him at a speed that left him flabbergasted. The punch struck Yi Xian's right chest, causing his lifeblood to churn as he flew hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Void realm experts could traverse the void, much less heavenly Dao realm experts. For existences at this level, the so-called wings were superfluous. This was because they could still fly without wings. Therefore, if a heavenly Dao ferocious beast at this level were to grow a pair of wings on its back, the effect of the wings would definitely not be as simple as flight. The might of the bone wings on the demonic blood-flying bear's back was as such. Without the bone wings he could still fly. However, due to the existence of the bone wings, his advantage in terms of speed allowed him to exceed most experts at the same realm. With this kind of speed, even Yi Xian would have to use the Red Lotus void-shattering shuttle to be able to match it. What's more, the demonic blood-flying bear's bony wings were incomparably sharp, and clearly had the ability to break through defenses. Once the demonic blood-flying bear flapped its bony wings in front of Yi Xian, the demonic blood-flying bear would most likely end up with his skin and flesh lacerated. I have to say, I seem to have underestimated you. At the very least, in terms of speed, you far exceeded my expectations. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Yi Xian steadied himself and a cold light flashed through his eyes. He spoke with his divine sense. However, this still won't change the fact that you will be killed. Because the same extreme. This sovereign also has it. Phew. Before he finished speaking, Yi Xian had already waved his hand. In an instant, a ray of light shot out and arrived at his feet before disappearing in a flash. What he summoned was the Red Lotus void-shattering shuttle, but Yi Xian did not let it show its form. Instead, it turned into a ray of light and merged into his feet. He would need to divide a part of his divine sense to activate the Red Lotus void-shattering shuttle in his feet, but it didn't matter. As long as his speed could be increased, Yi Xian's cultivation strength would be enough to kill this demonic blood-flying bear. A ray of light can increase your speed by 30% and reach the same level as this sovereign? What a joke. Rumble. Phew. Seeing this scene, the demonic blood-flying bear immediately curled its lips. Obviously, it did not believe it at all. A look of disdain appeared at the corner of its mouth. Before it finished speaking, its figure had already rushed out again, turning into a ray of light that was much faster than lightning. Along the way, the demonic blood-flying bear caused the space in front of Yi Xian to collapse rapidly. Whether it's a joke or not, you will soon know. Yi Xian sneered and immediately activated the Red Lotus void-shattering shuttle in his feet. The power of the domain was stimulated to the extreme. One in the blink of an eye. His figure had already disappeared from the void. It was not teleportation, but an extremely low speed display. This kind of speed was actually not any weaker than the demonic blood-flying bear, and was even slightly faster. Bam! Puffed! After arriving at the side of the demonic blood-flying bear, Yi Xian did not hesitate at all. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he immediately punched out, smashing directly below the opponent's right side. This attack was heavy and fierce, and it hit the target squarely. In addition, the demonic blood-flying bear had never thought that Yi Xian could have such a terrifying speed, so it did not use its strength to defend. Under such circumstances, the lethality of Yi Xian's full-strength attack was immediately displayed to the extreme. At the same time as the loud bang, a muffled puffing sound was heard. The demonic blood-black bear could not withstand it at all. Its body shook violently as it opened its mouth and spat out an arrow of blood. This speed, this power. Who exactly are you? As the arrow of blood spurted out of its mouth, it transformed into a majestic black river that stretched across the void. The demonic blood-black bear's expression changed as it cried out involuntarily. He had always been extremely confident in his speed, but now he had encountered Yi Xian, who was just a nobody on the left bank, who had actually surpassed his speed in an instant. Only just this point alone was already inconceivable, and he simply could not accept it. However, he had previously struck Yi Xian's body head-on, and although Yi Xian had retreated hundreds of millions of miles away, he was not injured at all. And now, Yi Xian had also struck his body with a punch, but it had instantly broken half of his ribs, and caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood essence like a river. Just based on this point alone, it could be seen that the gap between him and Yi Xian was not small. Not only was his strength inferior, but even the toughness of his body was also inferior. This was absolutely something that he could not believe, and was even more unwilling to accept. After all, he was an existence ranked 5th on the left bank's Heavenly Law Ferocious Beast ranking, and had been famous for hundreds of thousands of years. Just like this, today, he had encountered an unknown starry sky berserk ape, yet he had been suppressed in all aspects, such as speed, strength, and toughness of his body. How could he endure this? The primordial void is vast and boundless, ancient and mysterious. In this place, nothing is impossible. Faced with the demonic blood-flying bear's shock and horror, a cold smile appeared on Yi Xian's face. The voice of his divine sense was transmitted, but it was calm and casual, as if he was talking about something insignificant. Shill. Rumble. Bang. Pooh. In the next instant, he once again activated the red lotus void-shattering shuttle that had fused into his feet. His entire body instantly turned into a flash of light, and in a fraction of a second, he was already on the other side of the demonic blood-flying bear's body. Without hesitation, Yi Xian once again activated the strength in his body to the extreme, and with a punch, the demonic blood-flying bear's ribs on the other side were instantly broken. At the same time, a shockingly loud sound was heard. He opened his mouth and spat out a blood arrow, which merged with the blood he had spat out before, transforming into a large black river, spanning across the void. So you were once the embodiment of the heavenly law of a large world. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly waved his hand, compressing the large black river and storing it into his body. I didn't expect to unexpectedly obtain a portion of the heavenly law's origin liquid. Anyway, thank you. So you were once the embodiment of the heavenly law of a large world. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly waved his hand, compressing the large black river and storing it into his body. I didn't expect to unexpectedly obtain a portion of the heavenly law's origin liquid. Anyway, thank you. When Yi Xian heavily injured the demonic blood-flying bear with his previous attack, causing it to spit out a blood arrow, he already knew that he was once the embodiment of the heavenly law's origin liquid. This was because the blood essence he spat out at that time clearly revealed an extremely dense aura of the heavenly law's origin liquid. No, after that first canopy of blood essence, Yi Xian still didn't have enough, so he didn't immediately store it. Now that he made another move, causing the demonic blood-flying bear to spit out a second blood arrow, the two canopies of blood essence converged together, finally forming a portion of the heavenly law's origin liquid. Only then did he store it. Wait. By the time the demonic blood-flying bear reacted, the canopy of heavenly law's origin liquid formed by the two blood arrows he spat out consecutively had already been compressed by Yi Xian and stored into his body. The old fellow was furious. This was his heavenly law's blood essence. As a powerful existence ranked 5th on the heavenly law's ferocious beast list on the left bank, his heavenly law's blood essence had never been collected by anyone before. This was because although there were experts who could severely injure him, they basically wouldn't fight until they were able to injure him to the point of causing him to spit out heavenly law's blood essence. Therefore, in the entire left bank of the Milky Way, no one had ever collected his heavenly law's blood essence and compressed it into heavenly law's origin liquid. Who would have thought that the first portion after countless years would actually be taken away by this unknown violent starry sky bear before him? This was definitely something he couldn't tolerate. It was simply unacceptable, and it made him so angry that he was about to go crazy. Screech! Brain! All of this flashed through the demonic blood-flying bear's mind. He raised his head and let out a shocking roar, revealing endless grief and indignation. At this moment, his killing intent was extremely fierce, unprecedentedly blazing. Swish! Rumble! Screech! Before the roar fell, an incomparably sharp sound of something breaking through the air was heard. The demonic blood-flying bear had pushed the power in his body to the extreme, and his entire body turned into a fine ray of light. His speed was so fast that he overtook the first attack. Blink! In the blink of an eye, he had already reached Yi Xian's side and pretended to throw a punch. A cold light flashed across Yi Xian's eyes as he suddenly dodged to the side. However, the demonic blood-flying bear's battle experience was also extraordinary. He took advantage of this moment to flick the pair of sharp bone wings on his back. Rip! Rip! The sound of a piece of cloth rang out as the bone wing on his left side cut across the violent bear's body. The flesh below his left rib was torn open, and blood rained down from the sky. Yi Xian was injured. Fortunately, it was only a flesh wound and wouldn't affect him much. Your reaction is not bad. No wonder you are ranked 5th on the heavenly law's ferocious beast list on the left bank. The violent bear glanced down at the wound below his rib that was rapidly healing. He nodded, and Yi Xian's divine sense voice rang out. Before he finished speaking, His figure had already disappeared. He circled around and appeared behind the demonic blood-flying bear in the blink of an eye. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he grabbed the violent bear's wing with his left hand and smashed down with his right fist. Unfortunately, you are still going to fall here today. Kachap bang bang bang, pfff. Thunderous rumbles rang out in the void as an explosion rang out. A huge blood-red lightning bolt appeared above the demonic blood-flying bear's head. It had a diameter of millions of miles, and the lightning enveloped the demonic blood-flying bear's body. His consciousness also entered a temporary state of unconsciousness. Although it was only a short time, it was enough to change everything. The violent bear's huge iron fist smashed into the demonic blood-flying bear's back one after another. The demonic blood-flying bear could not take it anymore. With just a dozen punches, the demonic blood-flying bear's huge body exploded into a cloud of blood mist that filled the void. Soon, a figure walked out from the dense and majestic blood mist. His eyes emitted a cold light, and his killing intent overflowed into the heavens. His body was 50 million kilometers long, and he was like a small star. Shockingly, it was Yi Xian in his bear form. Whoosh! As the figure appeared, Yi Xian immediately waved his hand, and the whistling sound of the wind immediately rang out. An incomparably majestic invisible force whizzed out and swept up the majestic blood mist that was spreading out. It was directly sent to the bottom of the central region's volcano in the space inside the cauldron to start the blood essence condensation. Whoosh! At the same time, after the demonic blood-flying bear's body exploded, over 10 fine lights shot out from within his body and descended into the violent bear's hand. Shockingly, it was over 10 portions of compressed heavenly Tao quintessence liquid. At this moment, 6 of the top 10 beasts on the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast rankings had fallen, and only 4 of them remained. The rest had been destroyed at the hands of Yi Xian alone. I never expected that I would actually encounter this demonic blood-flying bear as soon as I left my closed-door cultivation. After the battle ended, Yi Xian waved his hand and put away the Crimson Lotus Voidbreaker shuttle, and then a dim light flashed in his eyes as he muttered. In this way, it seems like there's no need to head to the demonic bear forbidden area. Whereas the remaining fellows that are ranked in the top 4 of the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast rankings are all at the middle area of the left bank. When he spoke up to hear, he didn't speak any further as he pondered the pros and cons of this. In the end, he made a decision and instinctively clenched his fists. Even though there are 7 seniors of primordial chaos at the middle area of the left bank, so long as I'm careful, I ought to not alarm them. In that case, the next target is the middle area of the left bank. The poisonous python forbidden area. Hiss. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xian suddenly made his move. An incomparably clear sound of tearing cloth rang out, and a spatial crack appeared in front of him. He stepped into it and disappeared in an instant, rushing towards the poisonous python forbidden area in the middle area of the left bank. Left. The middle area of the left bank. The poisonous python forbidden area. The poisonous python forbidden area was very powerful, and its overall strength was ranked 4th in the vicious beast forbidden area of the left bank. There were more than 30 heavenly Tao old monsters in the entire forbidden area. But of course, these heavenly Tao old monsters were not always in the forbidden star field. Some went out, while others cultivated in seclusion in the parallel void. No matter how powerful the vicious beast forbidden area was, there was no need for more than 30 heavenly Tao beasts to guard it at all times. Among the more than 30 heavenly Tao beasts guarding the poisonous python forbidden area, the strongest one was the starry sky venomous python. In fact, among the more than 30 heavenly Tao beasts, there were 3 or 4 who were at the peak of the 9th step of the heavenly Tao realm like the starry sky venomous python. However, even if they were at the peak of the 9th step of the heavenly Tao realm, there were differences in their true battle strength. Star the poisonous void python's battle strength was undoubtedly one of the best among all the peak of the 9th step of the heavenly Tao realm. Otherwise, it would not be ranked 4th on the left bank's heavenly Tao beasts list. At this time, the news of the violent starry sky bear's appearance and wreaking havoc in the left bank had not yet reached the middle area of the left bank, so the poisonous python forbidden area of the poisonous python forbidden area was still unaware of this matter. It completely did not expect that the violent starry sky bear had already rushed to the middle area of the left bank and was heading towards the poisonous python forbidden area, wanting to kill it and steal its treasures. Hiss. The sound of tearing cloth rang out, and a spatial crack appeared at the edge of the poisonous python forbidden area. A figure rushed out from it, and it was Yi Xian. Hiss. With the sound of tearing cloth, a spatial crack appeared at the edge of the poisonous python forbidden area. A figure rushed out from it, and it was Yi Xian. At this time, Yi Xian was still in the form of the violent starry sky bear. He was only about 10 feet tall, but the moment his figure rushed out of the spatial crack, he had already activated the Blood Sea Mystic technique. In half a breath, he was already 50 million kilometers wide. Like a meteor, with a shake of his shoulders, he charged straight into the poisonous python forbidden area. Roar! Poisonous starry sky python, come out and die! Just as he entered the poisonous python forbidden area, the violent starry sky bear had already raised its head and let out a shocking roar. The power of its divine sense extended out, enveloping the entire poisonous python forbidden area. Soon, the general situation in the forbidden area was understood by him. He could not be bothered to pay attention to the ferocious beasts in the forbidden area, including mighty figures and desolate supremes. As for the upper echelons of the heavenly Tao realm ferocious beasts, there were a total of 12 of them presiding over the poisonous python forbidden area. Among the 12 heavenly Tao ferocious beasts, there were 2 at the peak of the heavenly Tao realm at the 9th stage of perfection. One of them was the poisonous starry sky python. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in the form of the violent starry sky bear. As soon as he rushed into the forbidden area, he immediately roared, clamoring for the strongest poisonous starry sky python to come out and die. After being stunned for a moment, the 12 heavenly Tao ferocious beasts immediately roared. Roar! Am I hallucinating? A ferocious beast actually came to the poisonous python forbidden area and clamored for venerable python to come out and die? Peak of the heavenly Tao realm at the 9th stage of perfection? His cultivation is not weak, but there are differences in combat strength between those at the peak of the heavenly Tao realm. Venerable python is ranked 4th on the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast list. Where does this violent starry sky bear's confidence come from? Violent starry sky bear, you actually dare to challenge me? That's interesting. If that's the case, I'll accompany you in a battle. It just so happens that this period of time is a little boring. However, you have to think carefully. This is a battle of life and death. Once the battle begins, there is no turning back. You and I shall each leave it to fate. Whoosh! Rumble! The last 2 sentences were obviously from the mouth of this poisonous starry sky python. As the voice fell, in the depths of the forbidden area in front of them, a ray of light shot out from some giant abandoned stars. It carried a powerful aura that could destroy the heavens and earth as it rumbled towards Yi Xian. The other 11 heavenly Tao ferocious beasts guarding the poisonous python forbidden area did not appear. Their original bodies were guarding their respective cave stars, and they only extended their divine sense to watch the battle. In their opinion, even if the violent starry sky bear that came to provoke them was a peak heavenly Tao realm at the 9th stage of perfection, the poisonous starry sky python alone was enough to suppress and kill it. The final result was without any suspense. Don't you have 12 heavenly Tao ferocious beasts? Why don't you all come together? I will fight all of you alone. Look. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's eyes flashed with a cold light, and the cold and domineering voice of his divine sense rang out. Penetrating. There was a trace of provocation that was so thick that it could not be dispersed. In any case, after killing you in a while, they will rush over together. Why don't we join forces now, so as to avoid missing out on the strongest battle strength? Roar! You are too arrogant. Even the sky suppression holy ape that is ranked 1st on the heavenly Tao ferocious beast list on the left bank doesn't dare to say such words to me. The poisonous starry sky python that rumbled over was furious. It felt that it had been insulted, and it raised its head and roared madly, replying with the same words. But violent bear, are you feeling guilty? Are you deliberately using such words to provoke me? Don't worry, even if I fall in this battle, the other heavenly Tao of my poisonous python forbidden area will definitely not swarm over to kill you. In a head-on battle, who can you blame if you lose? This is the purpose of your provocation, right? I will satisfy you, but the prerequisite is, you have to have the strength to kill me. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the poisonous starry sky python that was 50 million kilometers in size had already arrived in front of him. Without saying anything else, it opened its mouth and spat out a cloud of poisonous mist. It expanded without wind and spread out in the blink of an eye, enveloping a vast expanse of space that was 10 billion kilometers in size. In an instant, as the poisonous mist spread out, Yi Xian and the poisonous starry sky python in the form of a violent bear disappeared, and they were enveloped by the blood-green poisonous mist. When they saw this scene, wild roars and vicious howls sounded from the abandoned stars in the surroundings, and all of them revealed a sense of joy. In their opinion, this arrogant violent bear was definitely going to die. The poisonous starry sky python's blood-green poisonous mist was no small matter, and it was one of its bloodline abilities. Otherwise, there was no need for it to open its mouth and spit out such a vast and majestic blood-green poisonous mist. However, as long as one was enveloped by this blood-green poisonous mist, any existence, even if it was a peak heavenly Tao like the poisonous starry sky python, would have no chance of survival and was destined to be suppressed and killed. Boom! Rumble! Bang bang bang! Within the vast and boundless blood-green poisonous fog, earth-shattering booms could be heard. The fog was rolling, and the battle inside could not be seen. However, just by listening to these sounds, one could guess a thing or two. Poison the fierce beasts in the forbidden areas of the poisonous python forbidden land had been roaring madly, and their auras were shocking, as if they were supporting the battle. In their opinion, this battle would soon end, and that arrogant violent starry sky bear would die here. In fact, the situation was the opposite. In the blood-green poisonous mist, the poisonous starry sky python was being beaten. Violent the bear's incomparably huge iron fist blasted on its back, one punch after another. In just 5 or 6 punches, the poisonous starry sky python could not bear it anymore. His python was smacked with huge blood blisters, and they were arranged in a circle above his head. At a glance, it was as if there was a flesh crown growing under his head, which was simply shocking. These 6 or 7 punches all smashed on his head, and the poisonous starry sky python's consciousness had long been dizzy, and he did not have the consciousness to defend himself. In this situation, it was only a dozen or so punches, and the poisonous starry sky python's incomparably huge body exploded into a cloud of blood mist, diffusing in the void. The fight ended here, and a figure walked out of this blood-green mist. His eyes were cold, and his murderous aura was monstrous. His body was 50 million miles long, like a small star. It was Yi Xian in the form of a violent bear. Whoosh! As soon as the figure appeared, Yi Xian had already waved his hand. The whistling of the wind suddenly resounded, and an incomparably majestic invisible force whistled out, sweeping away the majestic blood mist that was spreading out. It was directly sent to the bottom of the central region volcano in the space inside the cauldron, and began the blood essence condensation. At the same time, after the poisonous starry sky python's body exploded, a dozen or so fine rays of light shot out and also fell into the violent bear's hand. It was a dozen or so compressed heavenly Tao origin liquid. At this time, 7 of the top 10 beasts on the left bank's heavenly Tao beast list had already fallen, and all of them were destroyed by Yi Xian alone. Only 3 of the top 10 beasts on the left bank remained. Roar! With a wave of his hand, Yi Xian collected the blood mist and heavenly Tao origin liquid into his body. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and his gaze immediately swept across the heavenly Tao old monster's cave stars in the distance. The poisonous starry sky python has been killed. All of you can attack together now. With the death of the poisonous starry sky python, only 3 of the top 10 beasts on the left bank's heavenly Tao beast list remained. Roar! After collecting the blood mist and heavenly Tao origin liquid into his body, Yi Xian's eyes flashed coldly, and his gaze instantly swept across the heavenly Tao old monster's cave stars in the distance. The poisonous starry sky python has been killed. All of you can attack together now. A deathly silence. At this moment, the entire poisonous starry sky python forbidden land was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. On the abandoned stars in the forbidden land star region, all the beasts in the forbidden land were stunned. Oh my god! Even the mighty figures, desolate venerables, and even the other 11 heavenly Tao beasts who happened to be guarding the forbidden land star region were no exception. They were completely stunned by the scene in front of them, as if they had been struck by lightning. They had originally thought that this battle would not last for too long, and that it would end soon. However, the result after the battle ended was completely out of their expectations. It was the exact opposite of what they had expected. The poisonous starry sky python had been defeated and killed. Its entire huge body had exploded into a blood mist and was taken away. Not even a single hair was left. This was a powerful existence that was ranked 4th on the heavenly Tao beast list on the left bank. Except for the top 3 and those supreme beasts of the primordial realm that had appeared in the past year, the other beasts on the left bank were not its match at all. Yet this unknown violent starry sky bear had actually blasted him to death in a short period of time, and the strength of its combat strength was simply inconceivable. This, even if the other 11 heavenly law ferocious beasts guarding the Forbidden Star Zone fought together, they would definitely not be a match for such a terrifying existence. The most, in the end, they would definitely be killed one by one. Brain. With these thoughts flashing through their minds, the 11 heavenly Tao beasts suddenly trembled violently. Their expressions changed as they gasped. Then, with a slight trembling, they each sent out a voice to express their position. Fellow Taoist Violent Bear's combat strength is really shocking. With this kind of cultivation, you shouldn't be unknown. Yes, presumably after this battle, fellow Taoist will soon be famous on the left bank. The fourth on the Heavenly Tao Beast list will change hands from then on, becoming the Starry Sky Violent Bear. But what does fellow Taoist mean now? Do you think we are such untrustworthy people? Just now, Venerable Python had said that this battle was between the two of you. Even if Venerable Python was defeated and died, the 11 fellow Taoists of the poisonous Python Forbidden Land can't swarm up and attack fellow Taoist. That's right, that's right. Fellow Taoist doesn't need to test anymore. Just leave at ease. This matter has passed, and the poisonous Python Forbidden Land will not pursue this matter. It really made people speechless. Yi Xian's eyes flickered as he fell into deep thought. Originally, he thought that these 11 guys would swarm up after the poisonous Python of Starry Sky fell, but he didn't expect them to be a bunch of cowards. But this was also good. Although he was confident that he could kill all the remaining 11 Heavenly Tao old monsters in the poisonous Python Forbidden Land, once the battle started, it would probably not end in a short time. In this way, it was very likely to attract the attention of those outside the Forbidden Land. There were a total of 7 Grand Mist Realm ferocious beasts and old monsters in the middle section of the left bank. If one of them was attracted, today's matter would probably be difficult to resolve. That is, even Yi Xian would have a headache. What's more, after the end of this battle, he had completely digested the gains from the previous breakthrough. In other words, the opportunity to break through again was basically almost there. At most, he would swallow a few more Heavenly Tao blood essences at that time, and he would definitely be able to break through smoothly. With these thoughts flashing through his mind, he immediately made a decision. No longer entangled with the remaining 11 Heavenly Tao old monsters in the poisonous Python Forbidden Land, he would leave first and find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Hiss! With these thoughts flashing through his mind, Yi Xian did not hesitate anymore. He immediately waved his hand and tore open a crack in the void. With a flash of his body, he rushed into it and disappeared. When he left, the originally silent void of the Forbidden Land instantly rang out with shocking roars. It was the voices of the 11 Heavenly Tao old monsters. Roar! Damn it, the Venerable Python has fallen just like that. There is something fishy about this matter. The origin of that ferocious bear is suspicious, and it must have used some unknown vicious means. Otherwise, how could the Venerable Python on the left bank's Heavenly Tao list be so vulnerable and be blown into a bloody mist in such a short time? We must spread this news. Don't forget, the top 3 Heavenly Tao old monsters on the left bank's Heavenly Tao old monster list are all in the middle section of the left bank. As long as one of them makes a move, this ferocious bear will definitely die. Hiss! Hiss, hiss, hiss. In the middle section of the left bank in front of the vast and boundless dark area, after leaving the poisonous Python Forbidden Land, Yi Xian immediately rushed over here. For example, 4 days had passed, and he had already left the left bank of the Milky Way and entered the depths of this vast dark area. Another half a day passed, and an abandoned planet appeared in front of him. Yi Xian's eyes flashed as he extended his divine sense to investigate. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, he flew over and directly entered the core of this abandoned planet. No. After some hesitation, he immediately took out the Shengnong treasured cauldron. In order to shrink its form, it was only 10,000 feet long. It hung in the middle of the core and then stepped into the cauldron's mouth that was filled with dense 9-colored fog. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! With a wave of his hand, a faint sound of breaking through the air rang out. Rays of light shot out and hovered in front of Yi Xian. These were the cultivation resources that he took out from the undying world in his body for this breakthrough. Among them were a few Heavenly Tao blood essences. These were the resources that he had to consume for this closed-door cultivation. With a flash of light, the Shengnong Cauldron's domain was activated by him. Some of the cultivation resources were compressed to the size of a nascent soul fist. Then, with a wave of his hand, They were swallowed into his stomach. The moment they entered his mouth, they melted, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into a majestic river of energy that slowly flowed out of Yi Xian's body. Willis expected, the clanging sound of the chains covered the sky and earth. This time, there was still only one shackle that appeared. As long as it was torn apart, he would be able to successfully break through. Very quickly, Yi Xian fully activated the huge river of energy that had just formed in his body. It began to circulate in the hundreds of meridians in his body. In just half a month, the great river of energy formed in the meridians in his body had been completely refined. With just a single impact, the incomparably thick shackles had already been broken. And the anticipated system notification rang out in Yi Xian's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through the realm of the ancient Dongshu technique. Current realm. 7th level of the Heavenly Tao. Ding! Congratulations to the host for breaking through the realm of the physical body's qi and blood. Current realm. 7th level of the Heavenly Tao. In an instant, Yi Xian opened his eyes. In the depths of his eyes, a trace of excitement quietly flashed. After this breakthrough, the suppression of the primordial Tao still existed. Under the 9th transformation of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape, his cultivation was still at the peak of the 9th stage great perfection of the Heavenly Tao. However, his true combat strength had clearly increased by a large margin. More importantly, he was only 2 small stages away from the 9th stage great perfection of the Heavenly Tao required to consume the level 31 primordial pill. Chapter 51-57. Without any suspense, Yi Xian successfully broke through once again. Although the primordial chaos great Tao suppression still existed, causing his cultivation to remain at the peak of the perfected 9th stage of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape. However, his actual combat strength had clearly increased by a large margin. More importantly, he was now only 2 small stages away from the perfected 9th stage of the Heavenly Tao required to consume the level 31 primordial chaos pill. Although these 2 small breakthroughs wouldn't take much time under normal circumstances, Yi Xian couldn't wait any longer. He had to raise his cultivation to the peak of the perfected 9th stage of the Heavenly Tao as soon as possible. Then, he would immediately begin refining the level 31 primordial chaos pill. This time, he had first wreaked havoc in the left bank's left section. Now, he was in the middle section of the left bank, killing many Heavenly Tao old monsters in succession. Even the top 10 old monsters on the left bank's Heavenly Tao list were now down to only 3. The news of the violent astral bear's appearance and wreaking havoc must have spread in the left bank's left section. For example, today, following the deaths of the demonic blood-flying bear and the cosmic venomous python, the old monsters in the Forbidden Grounds and Star Domain in the middle section of the left bank would also receive the news. This time, after leaving the poisonous python forbidden area, he had been in seclusion for half a month. If there were no accidents, most of the news about what he did after returning in the form of a violent bear would have spread throughout the entire left bank of the Milky Way. This was no small matter. After all, the beasts that had been hunted were all in the top 10 of the left bank's Heavenly Tao savage beast list. Yi Xian had a very strong intuition that the primordial chaos old monsters were already paying attention to this matter. Therefore, he didn't have much time left. He had to raise his cultivation to the perfected 9th stage of the Heavenly Tao as soon as possible and refine the level 31 primordial chaos pill. Only with the level 31 primordial chaos pill in hand, he would be confident. Heavens afraid that he would encounter Patriarch primordial chaos in the middle section of the left bank. He had no choice but to conjure the 10 colored flames to protect himself. However, he was not allowed to leave and enter a predicament. While in a predicament, Yi Xian could immediately consume a level 31 primordial chaos treasure pill at any time. It would only take him about a year to successfully break through the Heavenly Tao realm and enter the primordial chaos Great Tao realm after the Heavenly Tao realm. Once he stepped into the primordial chaos Tao realm after the Heavenly Tao, the suppression of the primordial chaos Tao that had always existed to him would no longer exist. Once he activated the 9 transformations Devil Ape's bloodline ability, he would be able to display its might once again. Once he activated the 9 transformations Devil Ape's 9th transformation, his cultivation would instantly reach the peak of the Grand Mist realm. After the Heaven Tao was the primordial chaos Tao realm. It would be fine if Yi Xian did not break through. However, once he successfully broke through, he would become the strongest person in the primordial chaos Tao realm. At that time, he would have nothing to fear even if he retracted the 10 colored flames. Even if he was surrounded by more than 10 Patriarch Primordial Chaos Old Monsters, he would be able to easily beat them into a pulp. Although 2 small breakthroughs are not much, I cannot let my guard down. During this period, I must not be targeted by any Patriarch Primordial Chaos Old Monsters. A dark light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes as he fell into deep thought. He muttered softly. The first 2 breakthroughs were completely reliant on consuming the Heavenly Tao blood essence. The second breakthrough was made after I digested the benefits of the previous breakthrough, and consumed a few more Heavenly Tao blood essences. For the next breakthrough, I cannot consume the Heavenly Tao blood essence to forcefully break through. Otherwise, my realm will definitely be unstable. In other words, before I break through this time, I will have to go through a fierce battle and completely digest the benefits of the breakthrough. Only then can I enter seclusion again. If there are no accidents, I will have to kill 2 of the top 3 beasts on the left bank's Heavenly Tao Ferocious Beast list in order to usher in this normal opportunity to break through. And after that breakthrough, there is only one small stage left. For this last small stage breakthrough, I only need to go through a fierce battle and consume the Heavenly Tao blood essence to forcefully break through. Then, the next 2 targets are the Ferocious Beast on the left bank's Heavenly Tao Ferocious Beast list and the Old Tortoise that is ranked second. These 2 fellows must be continuously fought and killed in order to have the opportunity to break through. Whoosh! At this point, Yi Xian no longer hesitated. With a faint sound of breaking through the air, his figure flashed and instantly rushed out of the mouth of the Shunknown cauldron that was shrouded in 9-colored fog. With a wave of his hand, he stored the cauldron into his body and directly rushed out of the abandoned planet where he was in seclusion. Hiss! An incomparably crisp sound of ripping cloth rang out. Yi Xian waved his hand and tore open a void crack. With a slight shake of his shoulders, he rushed into it. This time, his destination was the Forbidden Land of the Owls in the right area of the middle section of the left bank. The Forbidden Land of the Owls was located in the right area of the middle section of the left bank. The strongest person guarding the Forbidden Land of the Owls was a devil-eyed owls. Although its cultivation strength was the same as Yi Xian's, which was also at the peak of the Heavenly Tao Ferocious Beast list, it was a supreme ferocious beast that was ranked 3rd on the left bank's Heavenly Tao Ferocious Beast list. Left bank, although there was only 1 rank difference between the 3rd on the left bank and the 4th on the left bank, the devil-eyed owl's combat strength was definitely not comparable to the venomous starry sky python that was ranked 4th on the left bank. After all, the top 3 were already in the top 3. Although the 3rd was the lowest of the top 3 on the left bank, it was definitely not comparable to the so-called 4th on the left bank. Its significance was completely different. There were at least 30 Heavenly Tao ferocious beasts in the Forbidden Land of the Owls. After all, it was ranked 3rd on the left bank's Heavenly Tao ferocious beast list. However, there were probably not many Heavenly Tao ferocious beasts guarding the Forbidden Land. This time was different from when they went to the venomous python Forbidden Land. At that time, the news of the violent bear wreaking havoc on the left bank had not spread in the middle section of the left bank. Even if Yi Xian had killed the venomous starry sky python and fought with more than a dozen other Heavenly Tao ferocious beasts in the Forbidden Land, the possibility of attracting the attention of the old monster of primordial chaos was not high. But now it was different. After Yi Xian killed the demonic blood-flying bear and the venomous starry sky python, the entire left bank must have known that he was hunting the top 10 on the Heavenly Tao ferocious beast list. This was no small matter. It was very likely that it had already attracted the attention of a certain old monster of primordial chaos. Under such circumstances, Yi Xian had to use thunderous methods to kill this devil-eyed owls as soon as possible when he arrived at the Forbidden Land of the Owls. Then, he could immediately escape. Otherwise, once he started a battle with the other Heavenly Tao ferocious beasts in the Forbidden Land of the Owls, the possibility of attracting a certain old monster of primordial chaos would be greatly increased. Then it would be completely unnecessary. Now, Yi Xian was only 2 small stages away from the peak of the Heavenly Tao realm. There was no need for him to be entangled with the old monster of primordial chaos who was in the Heavenly Tao realm at this time. With these thoughts in mind, he quickly arrived at the Forbidden Land of the Owls on the right side of the middle section of the left bank. However, he did not directly enter the Forbidden Land like before. Instead, he used the secret technique of perfect oscillation of spiritual power to conceal his body, restrained his aura, and quietly and patiently waited outside the Forbidden Land. After leaving the abandoned planet where he was in seclusion, Yi Xian quickly arrived at the Forbidden Land of the Owls on the right side of the middle section of the left bank. However, this time, he didn't directly enter the Forbidden Star Zone like before. Instead, he concealed himself with a secret technique that perfectly vibrated his spiritual power and concealed his aura. He quietly and patiently lay in wait outside the forbidden star zone. This was something that could not be helped. Now, his cultivation realm was only 2 small stages away from the peak of the heavenly Tao realm. There was no need for him to be entangled with the old monster of primordial chaos, who was in the heavenly Tao realm at this time. The news of the violent starry sky bear appearing out of nowhere and wreaking havoc on the left bank, specifically looking for the powerful existences ranked in the top 10 of the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast list, had long spread throughout the entire left bank of the Milky Way. Perhaps, it might have already attracted the attention of a certain old monster of primordial chaos. Under such circumstances, if he directly rushed into the forbidden land of the owls, it was very likely that he would be ambushed. Therefore, it was best to wait for the devil-eyed owls to leave the forbidden land before making a move in the dark void outside the forbidden land. At that time, as long as he was a little faster and launched a thunderous attack, he would immediately escape after the successful ambush. There was not much possibility of accidents. Under normal circumstances, this kind of waiting method might not be appropriate because no one could predict when the target would walk out of the forbidden land. If the target was in seclusion, who knew if it would be hundreds or thousands of years? That would make people speechless. However, the situation in the entire left bank of the Milky Way was no longer the same as before. Ever since the appearance of the nether wolf and the black blood fiend crocodile, in the past year or so, more than a dozen old monsters of primordial chaos had appeared in the entire left bank. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for the old monsters of the heavenly Tao in the ferocious beast forbidden lands and the remnant star domain to be able to calm down and enter seclusion for a long time. They were at the peak of the heavenly Tao whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th stage. They would definitely not be able to sit still. As long as they had the chance, they would travel to the forbidden lands and star domains where the old monsters of primordial chaos were stationed to visit and seek advice. Demon the Devil-Eyed Owls was a powerful existence ranked 3rd on the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast list. They had been in this realm for countless years, so they were naturally more eager and passionate than anyone else about the primordial chaos Tao realm after the heavenly Tao. Therefore, they would definitely think of ways to contact the old monsters of the heavenly Tao in the forbidden lands and star domains where the old monsters of primordial chaos were stationed. They would ask them to recommend them, hoping to meet these old monsters of primordial chaos and humbly ask for advice on the key to breaking through the heavenly Tao realm and stepping into primordial chaos. As expected, Yi Xian only waited for 7 days before a ray of light shot out from the Devil-Eyed Owl's forbidden land 50 billion kilometers away. It was a ferocious bird that was about 50 million kilometers in size. Its entire body was pitch black, and its body was shaped like an owl. However, it had a cat's head and only one eye. It emitted a faint blue light, and the cultivation aura that emanated from its body was at the peak of the 9th stage of the heavenly Tao realm. Furthermore, it was extremely condensed and heavy. It was the Devil-Eyed Owls. Hiss! This old fellow was extremely cautious. This was probably because the news of the violent starry sky bear appearing out of nowhere and wreaking havoc on the left bank, specifically looking for the top 10 experts on the left bank's heavenly Tao ferocious beast list, had already spread. Charge, outside the forbidden star zone. His single eye glowed with a faint blue light as he scanned the surrounding void. After confirming that there were no abnormalities, he tore open a void rift with his claw and charged into it, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The Devil-Eyed Owl's single eye was extremely extraordinary. It was also an eye technique. The faint blue light that suffused his eye was to scan the void 50 billion kilometers around him. It was to see if anyone was lurking in the dark, so as to prevent them from being ambushed. Unfortunately, although his Devil-Eyed Owls was also an eye technique with extraordinary might, it was still inferior to Yi Xian's demon soul pupil. Currently, not only had Yi Xian activated the perfect oscillation mental energy secret technique, even his strongest eye technique, the demon soul pupil, had been fully activated. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for him, who was completely concealed and had completely restrained his aura, to reveal the slightest trace of himself. Not to mention the Devil-Eyed Owls, who were also in the heavenly Tao realm. Even the dozen or so heavenly Tao freaks of primordial chaos that had appeared on the left bank would find it difficult to find any clues. After all, they had just broken through to the early stage primordial chaos realm. If they had a terrifying cultivation level above the mid-stage primordial chaos realm, it would be hard to say. Whoosh! Yi Xian did not reveal himself, but the power in his body was pushed to the limit. He had already shrunk under the Blood Sea Mystic technique. His body, which was only about 10 feet tall, instantly transformed into an invisible beam of light that shot out silently. Taking advantage of the void rift that had yet to completely close up, Yi Xian, who was in his bear form, followed closely behind the devil-eyed owls. He had planned this all along. He had already predicted that if the devil-eyed owls were to leave the Forbidden Star Domain and visit other forbidden lands or star domains, they would definitely tear open a void rift and rush there. Right. As far as Yi Xian was concerned, this was obviously what he wanted. No one would have thought that he would actually possess such a mysterious aura concealment technique, as well as the strongest eye technique like the Demon Soul Eye. He was actually able to hide it from even the magic-eyed owl and follow it into the same spatial rift, following it and waiting for an opportunity to kill it, in front of the middle section of the left bank in the vast dark zone. Rip! A crisp ripping sound could be heard as a void rift appeared in the originally quiet void. Following that, a figure rushed out. It was extremely large, more than 50 million kilometers in size. It was a black owl, but it had a blood-colored cat head. It was none other than the devil-eyed owls that had just left the owl's forbidden land. He was heading to a ferocious beast forbidden land on the right side of the middle section of the left bank. A heavenly Tao ferocious beast in that ferocious beast forbidden land had recommended him, and Freak of Primordial Chaos, who presided over that forbidden land, had agreed to meet him. Thinking at this point, the devil-eyed owl's heart immediately revealed a look of excitement. With a wave of its hand, it instantly tore open another void rift and continued on its way. But it was also at this moment that a strange change suddenly befell. I've already followed you here, and it's been a hard journey. Why are you in a hurry? It's not too late to leave after the battle. Xiao. It was at this moment that an extremely cold voice sounded, and then the figure of Yi Xian appeared. At this time, he was still in the form of the violent star bear. Originally, he was only about 10 feet tall, but as he activated the power in his body to the extreme, he expanded like a balloon in the blink of an eye. In less than half a breath, he was already 50 million kilometers in size. Separated by hundreds of billions of miles of void, he confronted the devil-eyed owls in front of him. Violent star bear, it's actually you? Yi Xian fully activated his cultivation, turning into an invisible pressure that spread out, instantly locking down the devil-eyed owl's aura. The latter's body trembled slightly and immediately turned to look. When it saw Yi Xian's figure, its eyes narrowed, and its voice instantly turned sharp. You were hiding outside the forbidden land of the owls and followed me all the way here, but I didn't notice at all. Violent star bear, it's actually you? When Yi Xian appeared, the devil-eyed owl's body trembled slightly and immediately turned to look. When it saw Yi Xian's figure, its eyes narrowed, and its voice instantly turned sharp. You were hiding outside the forbidden land of the owls and followed me all the way here, but I didn't notice at all. You? How did you do it? It was no wonder that it had such a question. After all, it was a powerful existence ranked third on the left bank's heavenly beast list. Even if Yi Xian's cultivation was stronger than it, it was probably not that much stronger. And he still had the demonic eye technique. No matter what, this kind of situation shouldn't have happened. He was actually followed by Yi Xian into the void crack and silently arrived here, but he didn't notice at all. The reason why he asked such a question at this time was obviously to test Yi Xian's tone. This way, he could be prepared in the upcoming battle. Although, the violent star bear that Yi Xian had transformed into was unknown on the left bank, but after all, he had just killed the demonic blood-flying bear, ranked 5th on the left bank's heavenly beast list, and the poisonous star python, ranked 4th, one after another. Just these two battles were enough to prove his strength. Even the devil-eyed owls, who had squeezed into the top 3 on the left bank's heavenly beast list, did not dare to be careless. Hiss! Before he finished speaking, an incomparably sharp sound of breaking through the air rang out. A blue beam of light shot out from the devil-eyed owl's huge single eye, and as it rumbled, the void in its path rapidly collapsed. After using the demonic eye technique, his speed was too fast. Once it enveloped Yi Xian's body, it would probably cause a certain amount of damage. This was because although this eye technique was offensive, it was too domineering and powerful. One it took a long time to describe, but in fact, only 1/10 of an instant had passed by the time this pillar of light arrived in front of him. 1,000 distance of hundreds of millions of kilometers was traversed in just 1/10 of an instant. If it were anyone else, even if it was a peak heavenly Tao at the 9th stage, they would not be able to dodge. They would definitely be hit, and the result would most likely be a hole in their body. After all, when this dark blue pillar of light shot out, even the void was collapsing. But Yi Xian dodged. First in the previous battle with the demonic blood-flying bear, ranked 4th on the left bank's heavenly beast list, Yi Xian had almost fallen into a disadvantage in terms of speed. In the end, he had taken out the Red Lotus void-shattering shuttle and fused it into his feet to reverse the situation. This was something that left a deep impression on him. Now that he was ambushing this devil-eyed cat owl, he would naturally be vigilant. The devil-eyed cat owl's position on the left bank's heavenly Dao list was even higher than the demonic blood-flying bear. Its strength was stronger, and it was a ferocious bird. Generally speaking, ferocious birds had a more obvious advantage in terms of speed compared to ferocious beasts. Yi Xian had already expected that his speed might be faster than the demonic blood-flying bear, so before he rushed out of the void crack, he had already taken out the Red Lotus void-shattering shuttle and fused it into his feet. This proved that this kind of caution was necessary. Otherwise, Yi Xian would definitely not be able to dodge this dark blue light. It was very likely that he would be seriously injured because of it. Swish! With a shake of his shoulders, his figure disappeared from his original spot. When he reappeared, he was already on the left side, only tens of billions of kilometers away from the devil-eyed cat owl. He clenched his iron fist and immediately punched out. Rumble! The power of this attack was too violent, and an earth-shattering rumble sounded out. The iron fist rumbled out, and the void along the way collapsed. If it really hit the devil-eyed cat owl's body, it would definitely break his bones and tendons. Your reaction is not bad, and your speed is not bad. Unfortunately, if that's all you have, then you are destined to die here in this battle. Screech! At the same time, the devil-eyed cat owl's voice sounded out. He raised his head and let out a sky-shattering screech. The pair of wings on his back flapped wildly, and his incomparably huge body instantly became agile. In the void, he was like a butterfly flying through flowers, dazzling everyone's eyes. Light, he easily dodged Yi Xian's punch, and even appeared behind Yi Xian in a flash. He stretched out his right claw and instantly pressed down. Hiss! The sound of cloth tearing could be heard. The devil-eyed cat owl's right claw slashed across Yi Xian's back, tearing open the flesh on his back. At this moment, Yi Xian only felt a burning pain on his back. A huge wound had been torn open, and blood rained down from the sky. Still, fortunately, it was only his back, and not his chest or abdomen. Otherwise, this attack would have torn open Yi Xian's chest and abdomen, and his internal organs might have fallen out. That would definitely have been the result of serious injuries. This devil-eyed cat owl's strength was not very strong, but its speed was too fast. As a ferocious bird, this was what it was supposed to be, so Yi Xian was not too surprised. The top 3 of the left bank, you really live up to your reputation. Unfortunately, you are only good at speed. Enduring the pain, Wild Bear's eyes flashed with a cold light. Yi Xian's voice sounded out again, revealing an even more intense chill. You should be proud. This noble one originally planned to only end this battle with a pair of bare fists, but because of your speed, this noble one was forced to use other methods. Whoosh! Who? Before he finished speaking, Yi Xian had already made his move. With a wave of his hand, a ray of light shot out. It was too fast, and in the blink of an eye, it was already behind the devil-eyed cat owl. This ray of light expanded explosively, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a sea of flames that spanned 10 billion kilometers. Moreover, this was not an ordinary strange flame, but a 10-colored flame that had never appeared even in the primordial chaos void. The 10-colored flame sea filled the sky, and in an instant, it spread out and blocked the devil-eyed cat owl's back, sides, and even the top of its head was sealed. This old fellow's speed was too fast, and Yi Xian could only use this method to restrict its range of movement. Otherwise, who knew how long this battle would have lasted? Once the old fellow realized that it was not a match for Yi Xian, it would very likely escape, and Yi Xian might not be able to catch up to it. 10-colored flame? That's impossible. The devil-eyed cat owl's movement was suddenly restricted, and its body shook violently. It was originally extremely agile, but now it came to an abrupt halt in the void. It gasped in shock and exclaimed, "You are the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian?" The old fellow reacted and guessed the origin of the 10-colored flame. It was formed by the master of the magic hall, Yi Xian, after fusing the Shengnong 9-colored flame with the Red Lotus karmic fire. But, unfortunately, it was all too late. Rumble. Bang bang bang. As his body stopped, a cold light flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. Without hesitation, he flashed to the devil-eyed cat owl's side, reached out with his left hand, and pressed down on the base of its wings. His right hand clenched into a fist, and in an instant, he launched a barrage of punches. Without any suspense, the old fellow's body exploded after a dozen or so punches. The majestic blood mist was absorbed by Yi Xian with a wave of his hand, and at the same time, he collected nearly 20 portions of Heavenly Dao origin liquid. Fruit. No wonder he was ranked third on the left bank's Heavenly Dao ferocious beast list. He was extremely rich, and even Yi Xian was excited. At this point, more than half of the powerful beasts ranked in the top 10 on the left bank's Heavenly Dao ferocious beast list had been killed by Yi Xian. The dragon whale ranked 10th. The frost blood blue crocodile ranked 9th. The demon blood heavenly bull ranked 8th. The phoenix-tailed blood fox ranked 7th. The bloodthirsty silver wolf ranked 6th. The demon blood flying bear ranked 7th. Platoon the venomous starry sky python ranked 4th. And the devil-eyed cat owl ranked 3rd, which had squeezed into the top 3. Yi Xian was very satisfied with the result of this battle. Although Yi Xian was also quite surprised by the devil-eyed cat owl's speed, he was somewhat surprised that he was forced to use the 10-colored flame. Because of this, the devil-eyed cat owl recognized his origin at a glance. Fortunately, the two of them had fought in the vast and endless dark area in front of the middle section of the left bank. Within a radius of 1 trillion miles, there was no other existence besides Yi Xian and this devil-eyed cat owl. Therefore, even if the devil-eyed cat owl recognized his identity, it was still not important. The devil-eyed cat owl had already fallen. Even if he had seen some clues before he died, it was meaningless. Now that the devil-eyed cat owl had been killed, more than half of the powerful beasts ranked in the top 10 on the left bank's Heavenly Dao ferocious beast list had been killed by Yi Xian. Of the top 10 beasts on the left bank, only the top 2 beasts were still alive. These two old fellows were obviously stronger than the devil-eyed cat owl. One was the primordial octopus turtle, and the other was the heaven-suppressing sacred ape. The primordial octopus turtle was ranked 2nd on the left bank's Heavenly Dao ferocious beast list. If the devil-eyed cat owl was said to be strong in speed, then the primordial octopus turtle was strong in defense. On the other hand, the heaven-suppressing sacred ape was strong in attack. Its combat strength was so strong that it was terrifying. It was said to be able to suppress all Heavenly Dao existences. That was how the name of the heaven-suppressing sacred ape came about. As for the former, it was named the primordial octopus turtle because its lifespan was too long. It was said that this old turtle had been born at the beginning of the primordial era. The first generation of living beings born at the beginning of the primordial era were the 3,000 chaos demon gods. After that, the descendants of these 3,000 chaos demon gods became connate ferocious beasts. While it was said that this primordial octopus turtle was the first living being to be born after the 3,000 chaos demon gods. It was even before the first generation of connate ferocious beasts. It was almost as old as the primordial era, so the name of the primordial octopus turtle was well deserved. The primordial octopus turtle was guarding the ferocious beast Forbidden Land. The primordial octopus turtle was the strongest person guarding the Forbidden Land star region. The primordial octopus Forbidden Land was ranked 2nd on the left bank's ferocious beast Forbidden Land list. Its overall strength was stronger than that of the owl Forbidden Land. There were more than 40 Heavenly Dao old monsters guarding this ferocious beast Forbidden Land. However, in the primordial octopus turtle Forbidden Land, there was only one ferocious beast with the turtle bloodline. The other 40 Heavenly Dao ferocious beasts were all ferocious beasts of the starry sky with other bloodlines. Also, in other words, although the primordial octopus turtle was the strongest person guarding the primordial octopus turtle Forbidden Land and the ferocious beast Forbidden Land was named after him, in fact, the primordial octopus turtle was a loner. He did not have any bloodline descendants. Such a powerful existence had lived for such a long time, practically as long as this primordial era, yet he didn't leave behind any bloodline descendants. This matter was indeed a bit unusual, a bit strange. Butas, for the specific reason, the outside world did not know at all. This was because the primordial octopus turtle had almost no contact with the outside world. Although he had appeared a few times over the endless years, he was almost always reticent and unwilling to communicate with others. He was very lazy and, for endless years, he had been sleeping on a huge planet in the depths of the primordial octopus turtle Forbidden Land. Perhaps this was also related to his turtle bloodline. This race had always been like this. In other words, if Yi Xian wanted to fight the primordial octopus turtle, the method of waiting for the devil-eyed owl vulture to come was no longer possible. This old fellow was hibernating on a huge abandoned planet in the depths of the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land. He did not come out at all, as if he was not interested in anything in the outside world and only liked to bury his head in sleep. Under such circumstances, if Yi Xian waited outside, who knew how many years he might not be able to see him even once? He could only take the initiative to attack and find him himself. This was naturally risky, but he had just arrived at the middle section of the left bank. Although he had killed the devil-eyed owl vulture, this battle had taken place in the vast dark area in front of the middle section of the left bank. It had not been leaked, so the news could not spread in a short time. While Yi Xian estimated that it should not be a big problem to rush to the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land at this time, according to the order he had killed, the venomous starry sky python, ranked 4th on the left bank, had just been killed. The outside world would definitely think that his next target was the devil-eyed owl vulture, ranked 3rd on the left bank. Before the news of the devil-eyed owl vulture's death spread, no one would deliberately pay attention to the primordial octopus turtle, ranked 2nd on the left bank. For Yi Xian, if he wanted to kill this primordial octopus turtle, he did not have much time left. He had to rush to the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land immediately. Otherwise, once the news of the devil-eyed owl vulture's death spread, the old fellows in the middle section of the left bank who were interested in him would immediately turn their attention to the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land. At this time, if Yi Xian took the initiative to rush to the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land and entered the depths of the forbidden land star area, the risk would undoubtedly increase exponentially. Hiss! After all this flashed through his mind, Yi Xian immediately felt a strong sense of urgency. Without hesitation, after a cold light flashed in his eyes, he immediately waved his hand and directly tore open a void crack in front of him. Then, after shrinking his body to a height of about 10 feet, with a shake of his shoulders, he immediately rushed into the void crack and disappeared, rushing toward the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land. The old tortoise forbidden area was also located in the middle section of the left bank. Yi Xian left the vast and boundless darkness in front of the middle section of the left bank and directly tore through the void to teleport forward. It only took him 5 days to reach his destination. When the last void crack ended, the node was in the void 1 trillion miles away from the edge of the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land. Yi Xian's figure rushed out of the void crack and directly rushed toward the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land 1 trillion miles away. Here at this time, he was still in the form of a violent starry sky bear, but his body had shrunk to a height of about 10 feet. Moreover, he had already activated the perfect oscillation spiritual power secret technique to the extreme. Therefore, his body was hidden, and his chi was completely restrained. Even the dozen or so primordial chaos old monsters who had appeared out of nowhere in the past year or so on the left bank could not find any clues. In this state, Yi Xian moved forward at full speed, and soon left the distance of 1 trillion miles behind him. He quietly entered the edge of the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land, and made his way to the depths of the star domain. He was not in a hurry to immediately extend his divine sense to investigate the situation in the Forbidden Land star domain. This was because although the perfect oscillation spiritual power secret technique could perfectly hide his body and chi, this state as if nothing existed was very fragile. As long as Yi Xian made a move or fully extended his divine sense, the perfect oscillation spiritual power secret technique would immediately lose its effect. At that time, as soon as his body appeared and his chi was exposed, the heavenly way old monsters who were guarding the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land would immediately sense it. But that was clearly not what Yi Xian wanted. This time, he entered the primordial octopus turtle forbidden land to fight the primordial octopus turtle, so he had to do his best to end the battle. Therefore, he could only confirm the primordial octopus turtle's location, and even see him in person before he revealed himself.